Good morning. Wow, it's getting interesting out there. Good morning once again. It's 42 degrees. It's overcast on this Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. Can you believe it? We're at the end of March already. We'll get back to the weather in a little bit. Let's get to the headlines this morning. 250 lives were lost in New York State in one day. And here in Westchester, the death toll rises to 19. More cases on the map. Westchester might extend property tax deadline, by the way, and one of you called the show and asked about that yesterday. Did you lose your health insurance? New York has reopened its health exchange, and an MTA worker, Scott Elijah Yonkers Pastor, is the third transit worker to die of the coronavirus. We've got that ship in port going to help us out here. An awful lot going on, and there's even a little brouhaha in sports to change things up a little bit. Some people are questioning whether or not pitchers who have gotten Tommy John surgery, whether or not those exceptions should have been made. Those stories and a lot more coming up, including a dog, by the way. This one's pretty interesting. Because the family had to stay home, the dog injured his tail. He was wagging it too much. He was happy. I'm like that when some people come home, I guess, but I don't have a tag too well. Alrighty, let's get straight to the weather. Good morning once again. Going to try to keep you on an even keel as best we can. Welcome to Radio Westchester. Welcome to Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am Bob Marrone. We are your radio station at the train station. It is Tuesday, March 31st. 3 months into the year already. It's 42 right now and overcast, mostly cloudy. Looks like the rain and the drizzle, which was going to be with us till 10, maybe is gone already. We hope so. We're looking towards a day mostly cloudy, getting up near 50 tonight. Cloudy, getting down to 35. At least it won't be below freezing. Into tomorrow, partly sunny, 53, but no rain. We'll take it. Thursday, sunshine with increasing clouds, a high of 54. Friday, mostly cloudy, but no rain yet in the forecast, getting up to 56. And the weather, as you know, is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. Voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org, and of course, the first segment of the program supported by Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, plug-in virtualreality.com, and the Beachmont Tavern. Welcome once again, and a special shout out to one of our faves, Lorraine Carl. She called even before we went on the air. And right after the news, we'll perk her and say, hey, call in. But we got to cover the news right now, as you know, and the headlines, amazing headlines this morning, although none, I guess, that would surprise you at this point. 250 New Yorkers died last night, just overnight in the last 24 hours. There's 66,000 cases statewide. And now it's just some of the incredible numbers that we have in New York City, 38,000, deaths 914. In the state, again, the 66,000 deaths, 1,218. And throughout the United States this morning, 163, almost 164,000 with 3,000 deaths. And now we turn our attention locally. Let's get to our top local story. Westchester County residents nine died since Friday. Related to the coronavirus outbreak, bringing the death toll up to 19. County Executive George Latimer noted this yesterday. As the day goes by, these numbers all stop being numbers, he said, and they'll start to be the faces of friends. He said that yesterday on this program as well. We kind of got a head start early yesterday morning on what later became his 11 o'clock news conference. Latimer said the victims are not disposable people and said even one death would have been a tragedy. Statewide, again, more than 1,000 have died, and this was as of yesterday when it postmarked, but another 250 died overnight. And when I said postmark, in this business, it's really datelined. One story that's really making news this morning is Rockland deaths more than doubled to 18, and that was as of, again, a news deadline last night. But this morning, Ed Day, the county executive in Rockland County, is asking the governor for special help. He's noticing that his cases are starting to double geometrically, which again is to say 10 to 20, 20 to 40, and so forth. He's asking for help, and he's asking for an emergency hospital to be set up in his region. Westchester County may make changes to an April deadline to pay property taxes as residents contend with the economic implosion caused by the coronavirus. Many residents are out of work or facing life-altering financial struggles, do you think? With commerce mostly forced to a halt. But Westchester is dealing with that reality, and it needs money to be able to operate its services, including jail workers and sewage treatment. And the county executive said, quote, "We have to make sure that how we fund county government is done sensitive to the needs of the individual, but also sensitive to us performing our job." So that's not a definitive answer by any stretch. A question came in yesterday from Tom from Pelham. We got a chance to ask the county executive that real time, but again, his answer was pretty similar. Obvious, they're looking at it. Probably they'll delay it. I don't think they have a choice. But one we know, so too will you. It is 6:38. Did you lose your health insurance? Lohud put an article together, a sensible one. New York is offering special enrollment, a period for New Yorkers to enroll in health insurance coverage through the state health marketplace or directly through insurers. This in light of the public health emergency around the coronavirus. The step was taken to help minimize residents who fear around the cost of the coronavirus and who may have lost their health care when they and if they become furloughed. Individuals can enroll in plans until April 15th. So again, if you've lost it, if you've lost your health insurance, how do you want to go online to the state services and look at getting open enrollment for health care. Now, individuals eligible for other New York State of Health programs like Medicaid, Essential Plan, and Child Health Plan can enroll year-round, by the way, so don't worry about yourself losing that. And Governor Andrew Cuomo directed health insurers to waive cost sharing for coronavirus testing earlier this month. So that is good news if you should happen to have lost your health insurance or are worried about same. Of course, this is going to happen to all of us, and as George Latimer, the county executive, said yesterday, it's going to begin to touch us and some notable people, depending on where you work as well. Yonkers pastor and MTA worker Scott Elijah has died of the coronavirus. This in Lohud today. He was pastor of Bethany AME Church. He joined New York City Transit more than a decade ago and was in his 60s. He worked for the Combined Action Emergency Response Unit. So there you go. Again, another person acting in an emergency role, a healthcare worker. These people are putting their lives on the line for us. And Local 100 Track Division Chairman Carter Albert said, and I quote, "This is just horrible news. He was a great man, a family man, a strong union brother. The entire track division is in mourning." Again, Scott Elijah, God bless you. And yesterday, help came in the form of the biggest hospital ship in the United States fleet. Comfort, the naval hospital ship, arrived in New York Harbor yesterday, and as Mayor de Blasio said, our nation is here to help. The ship actually has a huge ship. It's 18, rather, it would be, had it been turned vertically, upside down, or not upside down, but on its side or on its back. Nope, saying it wrong, on its butt, if you will. It would be the 6th largest building in New York. That's how big it is, and has 1,000 beds and weighs 70 tons. And the good news is it got here a little more quickly than we thought because the dredging that was needed, the digging of the dirt underneath the water to make sure that the keel of the ship would fit, turns out that it took a lot less than they thought. It's a white ship marked with large red crosses. It sailed from its home port of Virginia on Sunday, arriving in the harbor yesterday morning. It will be docked at Pier 90 in on Manhattan's west side. Both this ship, as well as the one that was sent to California, will be outfitted with ventilators. Now, again, they expect that ship will be taking a lot of the patients who don't need coronavirus care, but that's a situation that changes day to day. And if you're wondering why I have different glasses on, I'll explain later. This is one of the little not fun things, one of the odd little inconveniences that happens from the coronavirus. Well, I'll explain later. And by the way, the fact that I'm able to read this copy is amazing because I don't have all of the power I should have in these cheapo glasses, but we'll get to why and how in a moment. The news and you are more important than my eyeglass problem, trust me. Although it does help if I could read the news. It is 6:43. Another person well known in the region has lost their life. Famed pediatric neurosurgeon Dr. James Goodrich, who separated conjoined twins, died on Monday. This in Lohud as well. Einstein College of Medicine attributed his death to complications associated with COVID-19. He was 73 and a Grandview Hudson resident, a pioneer in the field. Goodrich developed a special method to separate twins conjoined at the skull, enjoying a multi-stage approach to completing the delicate work. And as one doctor said, Dr. Jeffrey Oppenheim, in tribute to him, quote, every neurosurgeon in America, maybe around the world, owes him a debt for what he was able to accomplish. And he, well known and accomplished some very notable surgeries as we come up now on 6:45. This is sad for the restaurant industry, although many of you listening are members of the restaurant industry, and many of you are losing your jobs or stuck at home for other reasons, so you will relate to this. The New York restaurant industry lost $2 billion and 250,000 jobs already, according to surveys. This reported in Lohud this morning. Oh, wow. The report issued by the National Restaurant Association found these numbers, and restaurants have been impacted nationwide, as you know, by the virus. And it is among the hardest hit industries. Esberg saying, though, that the worst is yet to come. Thousands of more restaurants may soon be closing their doors, and some likely for good until that money's on the way, or at least the disaster assistance money. I've got to get this out of the way. A story making news, and a story that we will talk about coming up in just a little bit. We have a little more news when we come back from break, and then we'll open up the telephones. This is an interesting story, and maybe it gets you off the coronavirus a little bit. And that is yesterday, Sports Illustrated put out a story questioning whether or not, and for those of you who are Met fans or baseball fans, you know that Noah Syndergaard had surgery just 2 days ago for the classic Tommy John surgery. A day later, I think it was yesterday, Chris Sale, another major league pitcher, he and the Boston Red Sox had a similar surgery. And so the moral and ethical question is arisen, is this elective surgery or is it not? I'm going to weigh in on this now. I thought about it. At first, I thought, gee, it is elective surgery. But then, forget that they make millions. That is somewhat irrelevant. I would say that if it's for someone to pursue their livelihood, and it's honestly not getting in the way, and that is always arguable, since it involves someone's livelihood. I mean, if I needed a voice operation, that would be for my livelihood, wouldn't it? Well, like right now, I can barely see. I don't know how I'm reading this. But that would be for my business, would it not? We have a number of other stories, some of them interesting, some of them not. Education aid coming up, but it is time for us, 15 minutes in, to share another weather report with you. Once again, I remind you, this is Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am Bob Marrone. This is Radio Westchester, your radio station at the train station, and we are busier than the train station is each day. it gets less and less busy here. But we remind you, as we always do, that we're available on a number of things. And sometimes I think we have too many outlets, but eventually that will pay dividends for you in terms of hoping the right revenue comes in and we can do more and more stuff. But primarily, if you're wondering, how do I get on? Just go to radiowestchester.com and just click on Listen Live. And a miracle will happen. It'll come up. But we're also available if you need to know this, and many of you are watching on YouTube right now. Sorry for these ugly glasses. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Spotify, MyTuner Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. What's the other one that iTunes. And, of course, the basics, radio, or rather, Mornings with Bob Marrone, radiowestchester.com, and a few others that I can barely mention. Let's take another look. This thing one day, you're going to see one day when I smash some of my equipment because I can't reach it. I got to move it. I didn't move it. All righty, let's get busy with the weather, and then we'll come back with more stories. But and we'll take Lorraine. I know, try to get in already. Lorraine, if you call in, we'll get you on in between segments. But I do have to do the weather now, or I will be shut out. Now, remember, it's March 31st. 2020, isn't it a biatch if you have your mortgage or your rent due tomorrow? Hang in there. Money help is on the way, but so is the weather. It's 42 right now and overcast, getting up to 48 or 49, mostly cloudy throughout the day. There were some scattered showers. They're gone already, and hopefully they'll stay there. Wherever it is, showers go when they're not coming down. It'll be 50 degrees tonight, cloudy 35. Wednesday, partly sunny, 53, no rain. Thursday, sunshine, but full sunshine, but increasing crowds as the day goes on. Not crowds, no crowding, social distance. The highs of 54. And on Friday, mostly cloudy, 56 degrees. The weather's brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. All right, we're back. Now, I'm trying to figure out how this figures in, but let's do the story. Another story out of LOHUD today. Involves education. $2 billion in education aid is headed to New York. I don't know exactly how we're going to spend it, but U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer says the $2 trillion aid package passed last week will bring $2 billion infusion of education aid here, confirmed by Governor Andrew Cuomo. The education aid arrived as New York's lawmakers were to hammer out a state budget by Wednesday, and that ought to help that. The federal bill included $30 billion in emergency education funding. New York gets $2.1 billion of that. Now, 46. Well, I can't even read this. I got to get this right. I mean, I'm doing the news here. 36. No. $164 million under Cuomo control will be placed, that is, under Cuomo's control, to provide basic education aid or emergency support to school districts and institutions of higher education. Now, quite frankly, and that's probably a good thing to help out the budget, I'm one of those people that think our schools spend money profligately and need to really be reined in. No one ever questions it. In fact, if I get one, no, I shouldn't put it this way. I get so many telephone calls during budget season for schools, complaints about it, but yet the budget comes in. If I vote for it. Give me the money. It's about the kids. Well, the biggest tax you have is your school tax, number one, and number two. And it's arguable, I get that, but I'm going to put a stake in the ground. The people that waste the money most, probably your school districts, probably. But at least I'm putting it out there to debate. Will you please, for your own good, after all this is over, wake up? If you're going to spend your money for education, and we all want to, for our children, and we want to do the right thing, make them spend the money responsibly, make them be honest about where the kids come from, make them be honest about why they need so many poor children that need food and that we're using schools to feed them. Wonderful thing, but why do we need to use the schools to feed them? It's an interesting problem. We're going to take a call. Because anyone that could call the show so early in the morning needs to be put on the air. And she's going to ask Lorraine, but I'm going to tell her why I have these wacky glasses on. Oh God, I hung up on her. Are you still? I forgot to press the button, Lorraine. Would you please call me? Good. See, now I'm here alone, folks, because I am following the guidelines. This is a small space. No one else can come in. The place has been sanctified. Even through holy water in here. Hi, Lorraine. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's how
How are
are
you?
you, my love? It's great to hear your voice.
Thank you. I don't know. After I speak to you, maybe not. Um,
You can yell at me.
well, no, I'm not going to yell at you, but I mean, can't people just give it a break for 1 minute even? I mean, your callers are so. I know that everybody has their own opinion, but to say that Donald Trump does not care about this is so ridiculous.
Hmm.
I've never in all my life. And the poor gentleman who said on TV, I mean, I don't know if he regrets it, that he would die for his grandchildren. And people are so snarky about that. I mean, yesterday I thought I was just going to come through the telephone. I was so upset by this. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Okay.
I
I understand your point of view. I've been trying to keep level-headed about the president because, of course, he cares and he's got a lot to care about, and he's in a terrible spot. And just today, and it's appropriate that you say this. Yesterday, the president made it very clear that saving lives come first. Now, the reason why that lieutenant governor did it is there was a certain, I've been
He
saying.
opened up his heart, Bob. I mean, as a grandparent, you
Ah.
don't feel that way?
Yes,
I
I
mean,
did. In fact, if you were listening, my love.
I did listen. I
No,
did
did
listen,
you
but
hear? I did the monologue first. I said I would give my life to if I got a memo right now from God or you, which is kind of equivalent. If I got a memo and
yes.
it said, Bob, Ian and Lindsay, my grandchildren, with whom I'm extremely close, anyone who listens to this knows that.
No, yes.
If right now you can check out, but they would have the next 70 years, wonderful life, I'd sign up in a minute. However, there was a certain political
Oh no, no, I disagree with
tone.
you.
But I thought that. But I may be wrong. But let me back up
Okay.
because I need to do a little bit of a Donald Trump thing myself. I mentioned this paradox before anybody else that I know of. That sooner or later the president is going to be put in a horrible position because people die in war, people die in plagues, and men and women who are in power make life and death decisions every day. And at some point, the president will be right. The cure will be worse than the disease.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, but I just think it's so cruel of people to criticize this gentleman for opening up his heart, whether you think it's political or not. And I'm no fan of Andrew Cuomo, but what he was saying yesterday about let's cut out the politics in this,
Hmm.
because I think we should. I think this is a lesson we're supposed to be learning through all of this.
Hmm.
But yet, the people in the news, the reporters, keep just poking and poking and poking that they're expecting these political people to get so annoyed and say, oh, yes, I can't stand them and all this other stuff. I mean, it's heartless. It's just heartless.
Well, the part I think is heartless, and I was telling this to somebody last night, and look, anyone who listens to this knows I'm not an apologist for the president, okay, to be fair. But
Yes,
where I
I
think people
understand.
are very unfair to him right now is even people that like him know he's not very articulate.
No, I
And
understand.
sometimes you know what he means, and he uses dumb words to say it.
Right.
And I've always been taught, in fact, I used to teach this. When you know what somebody means, don't say, I got you. You said. That's not what I meant. But you said. It's like the politically correct wackadoodles do that to people. And on all sides. So, yeah, I hear you.
No, I mean, listen, if he wasn't on the TV every day talking to people and having the health
They
people,
crucify him.
they would crucify him. This president, he'll damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I mean, and people should admit this, because if Biden was in there, what would you be talking about? How wonderful he is? How
No,
he
that
he
he forgot
remembers all the words?
that
I
he
mean,
forgot what he said
I mean,
yesterday.
thank God his wife is a doctor. She could stand in for him. I mean,
Did you
really. I'm
see
not.
Anthony sent me? I laughed for a day. Did you see Anthony sent me a mime where it was like this: "Hi, I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message." I was
No, I
laughing
mean,
for 10
and
minutes.
even if he was president, okay, now, you'd have to cut him slack.
Of course you would.
You would have to. I
But
mean,
this
this
is the
is
whole new age. I mean, they didn't cut Obama slack. They don't cut this guy's. I mean, whatever. Heaven
they
forbid.
didn't cut Obama slack. If you could say one thing about Obama that you didn't agree with, you were considered a racist.
By
And
some, but not everybody.
but a majority of people, you could not say a
But
thing
I mean,
about
do
it.
you know when he got Osama bin Laden? I never saw so many depressed conservatives in my life. Oh God, it had to be the black guy, the guy
No,
who
not
he
the
was
people I
born
know,
by two
not-
chinchillas, and in Mexico. He's not an American. He wasn't born here. He hates America. And you think that's only because of his politics?
Yes.
It was because he has a tan
No,
for a large
I'm
part.
sorry. No, not the people I know.
No, of course, but you know what I'm just look.
Yes.
I'm using hyperbole now to wake people
But
up.
what's
But of
even
course, you're right.
frightening, even more, is
It had to be the black
hospital
guy that did it. It had to be him. Oh my God! Oh, my God.
The hospital in Central
If
Park.
Ronald Reagan did it, thousands of conservatives would have been chiseling his. I
well,
love
they
Ronald
have
Reagan
chiseled
too.
him in
No,
history.
but but if he did it, but when it's no, Obama did it. We know it was somebody else. Had to be some white soldier did it. Oh, of course it was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. What frightens me even more is the hospital in Central Park.
Why does that
don't think-
frighten you? You can get
Because
raped at the same
the
time you
rats
get.
alone, the rats alone
The
that are
rats.
in that park. God forbid there's any food left or anything.
Hey, did you remember Goodfellas? He's a rat. His whole family grew up to be rats.
I mean, really. I think these kind people that have put this up, from what I can see on TV, I don't think they have any clue. Just because it's across the street from Mount Sinai, do you think it's not rat
But
infested?
don't you think they'll do some sort of an anti-rat thing?
The number of rats, you can't. Unless you get a baseball bat.
Hey,
I mean, it's...
Why aren't you worried about me this morning? Did you see these glasses? I look Google-eyed.
Wow.
I'm in an interesting paradox here. See,
Are they readers or is it
no, they're readers, but you see, I have, and I'm going to hold them up, my contacts. I've been wearing, see, what happened was, I won't, it's not their fault, so I won't mention the chain. Because of everything going on, my good glasses,
Yes.
okay, I took, like an idiot, to get repaired just before this thing happened, and the store closed. So no
I'm
problem.
sorry for laughing.
I knew you would laugh, but I have another pair that I really don't like, and it makes me dizzy. And I lost them because
Are you using the glasses as an excuse for being dizzy?
no, yeah. I deserve that, lovely
Yes,
woman.
you did.
All right,
Go
now
to
listen.
Costco. You can get
I
50
gotta go.
million pairs.
I
for
know,
$1.
but I'm supposed to, separate and so anyway. But what I do is I only use contacts for hockey. But I have my contacts. But last night I developed an irritation in my eyes, and see, I usually use the contacts with these, right, or with other. I have other nicer looking glasses, but I sat on them and broke
Bob,
them.
who's even looking? Who's even seeing? You're by yourself at the station.
No, I'm
You don't
on
have to
TV
look
for
beautiful.
God's sakes. No, but I'm streaming. I look like Barney Google or somebody.
That's
look at those.
okay.
No,
That's
but what I'm
okay.
saying is I can't put the contacts in because my eyes are irritated. So now I have these $3 glasses on. I'm able to sort of read. God knows what information. I may have ended the world.
Well, I suggested you stop watching Rachel Maddow, and
I
your
don't.
eyes
You
will
see now,
rest.
that was me. You're worse than me. I don't watch Rachel Maddow.
Well,
I
you
don't.
never comment. I mean, if you've ever seen a person that's...
No, it's fair enough. No. Here, you see, the reason I used to beat up Fox all the time is for my 12 years on VOX, and I
Yes.
still love that place, but still, I had to watch Fox News because we were a Fox affiliate.
Okay.
I wanted to poke my eyes out with red hoppers. God. And Rachel Maddow, don't get me started on MSNBC. But you know what? As
What?
Jack Breslin says, more is better. Now I got to take this next call,
Yes,
but you,
okay.
you know
Nice
I
to
love you.
talk to you.
You
and
made my
happy,
morning.
very delayed birthday.
Yeah, I'm trying not to remember my birthday. You know how that is.
But you can get into all the stores now.
Yes, I can get
Early.
into. I Goodbye, Lorraine. I love you
Goodbye.
anyway.
I love you too.
Boy, talk about a left-handed situation. That's right. I get the senior discount. There's another guy with a senior discount. Oh, I went too quick. Call again, you miserable cretin. It is 7:02. Oh, we're having. I love it when we have. I got a good story about a dog. This is true. It's true. If I can read it. This is going to be abusive. See, now with my new age, this is going to be elder abuse with our next call. Good morning, Vince.
What's going on, Bob? You got me waiting here in the lobby.
Well, you know what? Cheech, the door.
Bring up, some guy comes over to me. He says, can of peas. I look, he's got chopped liver on a Rick's cracker. I said, can of peas my butt. He says, break out the sausage and peppers on the grill like in Brooklyn.
What's wrong with you? Hey, listen to this. This is a true story. You had a dog which you loved. See, you didn't hear the story, you know, and we'll get to this in a minute, that I can barely see this morning, but I'll explain why in a minute. Where is this?
Yeah, you got some weird glasses on, right?
Yeah, you see that. Well, I'll explain that in a minute. A Dachshund from the United Kingdom. They had to take the dog to the hospital. He was crying when he was wagging his tail, but because his masters had to stay home, his tail wagged so much that he injured it. Well, I could understand that. Kate Upton came to visit me. My tail would wag too.
There you go.
Hey, no, here's I'm at the risk of repeating myself. See, I took my glasses, my good glasses, to be repaired before this thing hit, and my eyeglass place closed.
Oh, they're stuck in the eyeglass place.
Yeah,
eh?
but they said, call our other store in Yonkers. And I called the store in Yonkers. And naturally, 3 days ago, they said they'll call me in 15 minutes. And the day after, they said they call me. But I'm not going to out them because I realized the problem that they had. So I've been using my contacts with reading glasses.
Oh.
So as luck would have it, you know, all the reading glasses are cheapos. So last night, my good reading glasses, I poked one of the lenses out. My backup glasses, which I hate because they make me dizzy, I misplaced because I can't see. So, you know, so now, last night or this morning, I went to put in my contacts, but my eyes are irritated from wearing contacts. I'm not used to it. I only wear them once in a while. So now I have store-bought cheapos that make me look like a Barney Google, and it's a little cartoon character, folks. Anyway, so I'm blind, but I think I did the news okay. I think I entered World War I. I'm not really sure. Hey, do you see these numbers are really? And I'm trying to have a little fun. You know, there's so many great things in life, and most of us are going to get through this, and we need to help keep others from dying and help those who need help. But where was I going with any of this? I can't read it, but I also can't think. It's spreading from my eyes to my brain. What's going on? You see, now we've got 154 people died overnight.
Yeah, and that's going to continue to escalate. I mean, it is the nature of this situation. I mean, it just keeps going.
Your state was in the news.
Why? What, the governor announced
for a good
something?
thing? No. All right. I'm going to do something that I promised I would never do. I used to make fun of my mother. I used to make fun of Mrs. Ford. I used to make fun of my brother and you.
Yeah.
But over your need for glasses. Now, the only way I'm going to read this story is to put two glasses on at the same time. God. There is a horrible justice in this, folks. But see, since we're doing honest radio, okay, there we go. Now I could see. See, because this is actually the power I would have. And to think I never used to wear. Oh, yes. Where is it? This is, okay. Now, there's a pizzeria, and I don't know where it is in your state. When Brian and Michael Marrone took over their dad's New Jersey pizzeria, he gave his sons an important piece of advice. Look after your employees. That's just what the brothers did when all restaurants in his state were ordered to stop taking dine-in customers. Rather than lay off 20 workers, and this is Federico's. I don't know if you know where it is. Federico's Pizza and Restaurant. We're going to call them today. We're going to find them. The pair took out a $50,000 line of credit to pay their employees.
Wow.
So we got to get them on the air.
Yeah, that's nice.
See, I'm Italian, so I can get ethnic. I hope they speak English. So, hey, anyway.
You know, it's hard to get good information, and you know where I think your previous caller went astray in defending Trump is that you never can get the straight story from him, and it's not because he's not articulate. It's because A, he's dumb, and B, he lies. But the problem you get with situations like you just read is people don't know still if it's safe to go and get takeout food from restaurants. We haven't been given good information on this. Because people are saying, well, what if the guy preparing the food has the virus? Can we get it from the food? Can we get it from the containers? Can we get it from the
Actually,
pizza
they
box?
say you can't get it from the food because it gets cooked and everything, but you can get it from the pizza. It lasts longer on cardboard than anywhere else.
Yeah, so it's hard to people are trying to support these local businesses who are remaining open and trying to keep their head above water, and provide the service to their customers as best they can. But it's hard. I mean, people are also saying, well, hell, I don't want to get sick if if it means that. So it's a tough situation. I don't think there's enough good information, and I don't know. Maybe the CDC has something on the website or something about it. I'm not exactly sure.
Hey, did you see the size of this hospital ship? Marrone. It's got
Yeah.
it's got 1,000 beds.
Yeah. On a personal note, and this is not because my friend is sick or anything, because he is definitely not. He's in good health. But my friend on our council, who's 91, is going to be 91 this year. I spoke to him yesterday, and he's not standing for re-election. He's retiring, and he was our mayor for 43 years.
43.
Yeah, I think he's the longest-serving municipal politician in New Jersey.
We ought to get him on.
I'm sure there are, people who served in the Senate and in the House probably longer because they're there forever. But he served there, and he served on our council for many years. And I spoke to him yesterday, and because he's up for re-election this year, and he said, he says it's time for me to retire. He wears hearing aids, but he still doesn't hear all that well. And he said, people talk to me or at council meetings, I can't quite hear everything, and he says I've lost that spark. He says I really feel that it's time to step down, and it's good. It's not because he's in good health and stuff. He's taking care of himself. I call him, frequently, and make sure he and his wife are taking the proper precautions and doing what they have
good.
to do.
That's nice. Well, my best to him. My congratulations. 43 years rather, of public service is a good thing. Did you see what they're doing at Whole Foods? Boy, for the first time ever, retail people at supermarkets have the upper hand, V. You realize that?
Well,
At Whole Foods, they're planning a sick out today because they're not getting enough protection from their bosses.
Well, that you're going to see more and more of that. And I saw a thing about Amazon, one of the warehouses in Staten Island. They're doing that.
Oh, that's no new. I didn't know that Amazon was the sweatshop of the 2000s. For God's sake,
that's what they say. I'm not exactly. I don't really know too much about it, but look, it's it's a big successful corporation. So they're not going to be perfect. But this goes to the point that I think that has been discussed often, and that is the economy versus people getting sick, and opening up the economy. And if they do that, they will just exacerbate the situation rather than solve it. Because what's going to happen is, you see how these people are complaining and they're saying, hey, we're not going to go to work unless you clean this up. Well, if half the workforce starts getting sick, then the other half is saying, I ain't going, I don't care what you do.
Unless they pay you more money.
Nah, money ain't going to do it, Bob, believe me.
Some things are worth money.
Believe me. Money won't do it. And the whole thing will come to a grinding halt. And not only will you have more people being sick, but the economy will collapse as well. So if Trump thinks that he's going to open up this economy before this thing blows over, he is daft.
Well, you know what? He did say last night, lives come first, number one. Number two, Fauci mentioned, hopefully we'll have things in place by then, but by the fall, there probably will be another little outburst of the illness because of the usual seasonal nature of these kinds of virus.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
but
And so, I mean, it's going to be a really rough ride. But you see now, now Trump is saying how serious all this is.
of course,
The problem is that he says one thing today, he'll say something else
although what they
tomorrow.
did
He was
say.
saying it was
I'm sorry to interrupt, but again, my research this morning, there was a poll that showed more Americans are concerned about getting sick than they are about the economy, which is a surprise. So I didn't mention that earlier because I like the callers to get their point of view in. But it did follow a poll. But then what any politician would be looking at a poll, not just President Trump. So.
Yeah, I'm not even sure his decision or his opinion is even based on that. I mean, he wakes up in the morning and decides to say something.
You got a bee in your bonnet. I had something else I wanted to share with you. Did you see? I was just looking at this. Where was it? No, not Whole Foods. Penguins from space. No, I don't. I don't really want to do that. Where is? I lost. I'm sorry. I lost a note that I had written here. Could wearing a tie increase your chances of yes? Probably. Yes, you shouldn't be wearing a tie. You wearing a tie right now?
No, hardly.
I didn't think. I don't even want to know what you're
why
wearing.
Why shouldn't you be wearing a tie?
Because you get. Let's say you cough. Stuff because it goes down on the tie. It catches food spray from other people. Not that you shouldn't, but it'll carry the germs for an extra period of time. That's all.
I see. Well, okay.
And we've had the first suicide in Europe of a money guy, a German state. Oh, God. Folks, bear with me here. Da-da-da-da. A German state finance minister took his own life after expressing despair over how to handle the economic fallout. Thomas Schaefer, the finance minister of Hesse, Hesse, was found dead. He couldn't handle it. Was overwhelmed.
Well, I tell you what, if they follow this course that they've been considering about opening up the economy and all of this goes to hell, there's no food, there's, the police department gets decimated and all that, and there's literally going to be rioting in the streets. If all of these rich people and all these politicians think that they're just going to sit back in their mansions, they are in for a rude awakening. People are going to be coming in after them the way they did in the French Revolution. It is going to be just chaos.
No, I honestly, in my bones, don't think we'll get to that.
Well, if they try and open up the economy before this passes over, there's a good chance we will.
There is. That's true. That's
true.
And
again, you don't know what Trump's going to do. I mean, he may say that his friends aren't making any money, so we got to open up the economy.
All right, one more thing. Do you miss hockey yet?
Oh, I always miss hockey. I mean, I keep reading various reports on these schemes about how they're going to have the playoffs and how they're going to end this end the current season and do all this. I think it's wishful thinking. They say, well, you could always play hockey in August. Who's going to go? I mean, and I think even after this blows over, people are going to be very reluctant to gather in large groups anyway. I think this is going to have a long-term effect on sports and such.
One more. There's a big debate ongoing. Should those pitchers have had Tommy John surgery because is it elective or because it's your livelihood, should they have gone ahead and do it? Now, I'm going to put my cards on the table. At first, I was saying, boy, that's right, it was elective. But then, if it's for your livelihood, I think and because of the timing of it, I don't think it was a problem for them to have that surgery. So it would be like if I lost my voice and needed surgery. While many people would be happy, I still couldn't make a living if I.
Well, I think what you mean they're having it now under the current.
Yeah, they
situation?
did it last week. Yeah, two pitchers, two great pitchers did. It's Chris Sale and Thor, or they call him Thor, the knuckleheads in the press.
Well, anybody who would voluntarily go anywhere near a hospital has got to have their head examined, number one. I sound like Joe, right? Number one. And number two, all elective surgery, and I'm certain that the hospitals are doing this, or should be doing it at any rate, should be on a priority basis. I mean, if they...
well, again, if it's for your livelihood, I don't, I would do it. I would, unless it's really going to keep somebody from getting help. Because if you're in a triage situation, no. But if you're not in a triage situation, I don't think you should do it just for the optics, even though the optics may look bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the guy's livelihood.
Yeah.
When this is over, the guy's going to have to go back to work. He can miss a whole second season if he doesn't have the surgery. Now, that's a 1.5 year recovery.
Yeah, I know.
But that's my position. No one ever said I was smart. Listen, I got to get ready for another guest. Oh, no, you got 2 more minutes. I'm sorry. I couldn't read my own clock. I'm getting like you. My clock is off.
Well, I
sounds like a medical condition. Go ahead.
A friend of mine had a infection in his leg unrelated to all of this stuff that's going on, and he needed to go to the hospital. And when he got there, he went. His wife took him there, and they screened them outside the hospital and determined, of course, that he didn't have the virus. And it let him, and they said to her, "You can't go in."
Yep.
And so he just had to go in and get treated. Fortunately, he's okay. He got some antibiotics.
See, what you need is the headache of having a daughter who's a microbiologist. What pain in the butt, because I tested negative for the virus.
Super.
Because of
I'm
where
glad
I work.
to hear that.
No, but as she said, it's only good for today. You can get it tomorrow.
Well,
you could touch a box tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you show up at my house. And fine, okay. So
well, you shouldn't. The one thing you shouldn't do is show up at her house.
No, I understand that. Okay, I do. Again, but what I'm saying is, I got to be annoyed like that. All right, they're playing your song. Thanks for the call. Take a stress pill. Have a drink. We'll talk to you tomorrow, if not later.
All right,
take care,
tomorrow,
brother.
Bye.
All right, we're gonna go next to a man some of you love to hate. Although, gee, Vince is really on the bandwagon today. My next guest. This is good. Run on. We're busy. I'm busy. I can't see, but I'm busy. Oh, there we go. Actually, my vision isn't that bad, but for small print. He is political analyst out of Florida. I don't know if he's playing golf, but he certainly is following what's going on here in New York, the president, the politics. And I'm going to ask him straight away, and I haven't even put his mic on yet. Does he think Andrew Cuomo could wind up in some way on this ticket? Please welcome political analyst Mike Edelman. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Bob. I hope everybody's healthy and well
so far,
in New York. I'm watching what's happening.
In my hermetically sealed studio where no one, I've obviously banned everyone so that I don't get thrown out of here or sick, but also no one's at the train station. It is every day it gets empty and empty. I have yet to see, now it is 7:19. I've not seen, and if you saw where my studio is, if you take a bus, if you park your car, or if you park your car temporarily, and there are 1,500 lots, or walk down from North Avenue, the only people I don't see are the people who would come down from Huguenot through that little side entrance, maybe 5%. I've not seen one person yet. This is the first time.
Well, there's no reason for anybody to go anywhere. They're on lockdown, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but you've got people who are essential workers. You've got me. It's just, so right now it's me, the guard, and a guy who cleans up.
There you go.
So, all righty. I'm going to start with Cuomo only because even the president had said, yeah, I wouldn't mind running against Cuomo. So
well, of course he would. Of course he wouldn't, because he knows that he could beat Andrew Cuomo, but he can't beat Joe Biden. This has been going on for months with Donald Trump picking the person he wanted to run against, Bernie Sanders. He wants to run against somebody he knows he can beat. Plus, it's really moot. Andrew Cuomo said yesterday he's not going anywhere. So he won't be on the ticket. Biden will pick a woman. And Andrew's doing a great job, which is why the speculation is there in the first place.
Now, let's go back to the original thing. We've got to put Biden under a microscope. Just the same way the president gets beat up every day, to a lesser extent, but it's sometimes more humorously Biden. And it's all fair in love and war. Biden gets beat up every day for being forgetful, that he may not be ready for prime time, that he lost his fastball, that he's lost the plot, as the Brits like to say. What say you? Can he get through this?
I've watched him in numerous interviews, and the only place that line is coming from is Fox News and right-wing media. I've watched him on 10 times, including town halls, and he's just fine. He's not losing his step. Now, if you're telling me he's not a great debater when there are 10 people on stage because he's got to formulate an answer in a minute, yeah, he's not. But in terms of losing a step, he knows his policy, he knows his history, he knows his diplomacy, he knows world leaders, he knows the issues, and he can articulate them. Unlike the guy in the White House, who just yesterday, I heard a video conferencing call this morning, lied to 50 governors about whether or not testing was available. He said, I haven't heard anything about testing in weeks. Really? In Palm Beach County, where I am, there are 2,000 tests. It's the biggest county in Florida. It's 1,000,004. 333,000 people are clamoring for tests. They've only tested 2,000 people. This is his home county. And by the way, on that note, this governor has done a terrible job in Florida of enforcing a social separation. Terrible job.
Why?
People are getting sick.
Why? And then on the other hand, he'll say, "Don't come here." But on one hand, he's got the people who are at the beaches. What the heck? Talk to me.
The guy is catering to his right-wing base in Florida. The pastors that are saying this is, God is doing this, and we'll beat it because of God. You got to see the stuff that's down here.
Oh,
it's really quite interesting.
You see that guy who opened up his mega church?
Yeah,
they had to arrest him.
He was arrested, by the way. He was arrested last night for doing exactly that. He hasn't. This governor has not enforced separation yet.
Yeah.
People are out on the roads.
Uh-huh.
The shopping centers are crowded. It's almost like normal. The theaters are closed and stuff like that, and restaurants are closed. But if you go on the streets, if you get in the car, which we do because you have to go grocery shopping occasionally, it looks like a normal day. Not like your train station.
Oh no, you should see all the malls are closed. The only place you really can go are the supermarkets, the drugstores, and fortunately for business, places like Staples, where I have to go occasionally to keep this place running. But it's pretty good. But getting back to the politics, I want you to, if you would, I'm going to take you back a little bit to your days as a staunch Republican.
Right.
Who doesn't have any animus towards the current president. Let's say Kasich won. And you were on the Kasich team. Aren't you waiting and almost drooling to take a shot at the next vice presidential candidate because that person's likely to serve the second term for Biden? Who are you just looking to rip into?
Who is as a John Kasich Republican?
You are a John? No. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't articulate that well. Make me president.
Try it again.
Okay, you are on the Kasich team. He's in the White House. You're one of his.
He's in the White House. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. You're one of his political advisors.
Yeah.
You know you're going to run against Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Which vice presidential candidate for him would be such a mistake that you'd be chopping at the bit to rip them to shreds? Because I really think that the Democrats are totally underrating this, and I think they're going to feel it in November if they don't get the right. See, I don't like when someone gets, it's going to be a woman. I don't think we should be, that's like what we do with the Supreme Court. They should pick the best person to get the job done.
Yes, but you have to understand something. He's already made the commitment that
I know.
he's going to select a woman. And
yes.
Clyburn of South Carolina has indicated that he would prefer a black woman. You have to understand the dynamic here. Joe's support in these primary wins have come from African Americans. He lost in Iowa. He lost in New Hampshire. He lost in Colorado. Predominantly white Democrats.
No, I understand.
Right? So he is going to put somebody on the ticket that will attract and motivate that base of voters nationally.
All I'm saying is a person better be able to be president. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I know, but, when you're saying that, how many women that are able to be president? Quite a few. We've got senators.
No, I know that.
We've got governor. Yeah,
I put you on the other team, my friend. I just put you on the other team. I want to know which one. With Kamala Harris, would you rip her to shreds?
No.
Some would.
Not at all. She's terrific.
Okay.
She's terrific on the stump. What they have to worry about is Kamala Harris flipping Donald Trump to shreds because traditionally the vice president candidate has been the attack dog, while the president stays above the fray.
Now, would you rip Klobuchar apart?
Only because she ate her lunch with her comb.
With a what? Oh, oh God, Mike Edelman is my guest. Okay. Would you rip the governor of, I think it's Michigan? Is it Michigan?
Yeah,
Yes.
Whitmer.
Yes.
Whitmer. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I wouldn't. First of all, you got to be very careful ripping any woman apart.
No, but what I'm saying is someone who would weaken his ticket in your view. If you were, again, I'd love to put you on the other team because then I could,
I know.
I'm trying to
Well,
extract the venom from you.
Well, the one, the negative attack ads that I used to do.
Yeah. Remember, you worked for Kasich.
Well, if you put Sarah Palin on, I'd have a.
Oh,
that's
come on, that's easy. I'm never getting over that. Can I just share this with you? I am never getting over the fact that a national party put a woman that ought to be running a 7-Eleven on the ticket, not even a 7-Eleven. It'll infuriate me. I mean, look, I know she was a governor. Maybe she could run a corporation, a small business.
No, she can't run anything.
No, maybe she could. Let's give her due. She was a governor.
Tina Fey could run better than she can run.
But the fact that people, the very first time I got physically threatened was because I called it the day of the dingbat. Guy came to my studio. He was a known bigot anyway, and so we almost.
She was not vetted. She was not vetted. Actually, I went to New York University Law School with the guy. His name actually slips my memory. Who vetted her and said everything was okay. And the campaign manager for McCain said, "This is a Hail Mary. It's either going to be very, very good or it's going to be very, very bad." And it was very, very bad.
Well, why was it very, very bad? I mean,
they didn't vet her. She was picked in a 24-hour period.
But you know what? I think they did vet her. I mean, for a man of John McCain's background to keep praising Joe the plumber, who wasn't even a freaking plumber, as the icon. Look, working people are icons. You got to love them, but they don't belong in the freaking White House. Anyway,
John McCain had nothing to do with the vetting.
Well, John McCain should have fired people, beat them with sticks, tortured them. They should have waterboarded the person. I mean, no, because it was an insult. It's like, what the heck did I go to school for?
Well, that was the primary reason that I did not vote for John McCain that year, Sarah Palin.
Well, I didn't. I was
somebody on the ticket.
See,
you
I
cannot put somebody on the ticket that's 5 feet away. That's incompetent.
See, I didn't like being insulted like that. I was in John McCain's camp. I mean, I later voted for Obama. I thought, I wanted an intelligence, but I thought Obama was too green. I thought Obama was what Buttigieg is today, or if I pronounced his name right. But once they put the dingaling on the ticket, that was it for me. There's no way I was going to vote for John McCain, and I loved the guy, but I was disappointed with him. I think it was the guy who said it best was may have known Bramson here. The most irresponsible thing that a presidential candidate had ever done, and I agreed with that.
Yep, and so the mistake won't be made again by Joe Biden. He's going to thoroughly vet everybody. Look, there's 5 or 6 or 7 people that are eligible, all of whom are capable. So when you ask me who would I want to see, I mean, I'd have to pick some obscure mayoral woman from California who was so liberal.
AOC.
AOC, correct. There you go. That's who I'd like to see on the ticket. From the point of view of John Kasich in the White House.
You see, the evil part of me wants to get AOC and Sarah Palin in a mud wrestle match. And then
but here's the thing. AOC is very liberal, but she's extremely bright. Sarah Palin was dumb.
No, I understand that, but as you well know, but AOC is also, you can be bright and ignorant, and bright and effete, and bright and sophomoric, and she is all of those things. And I've always the worst thing in the world is someone who doesn't get it and doesn't know it, and both of them are equal in that way.
Yes, but one of them ran for vice president.
No, I know. Now, see, what's wrong with me is going to get me in trouble. I'd run away with either of them, so it's a total separate issue. But so, all right, what about the virus in terms of the political? You talk to elected officials and former elected officials all the time. There is, and I said it before the president. I'm doing a presidential thing now. I actually did. I talked about sooner or later. And this is just from my days as an executive, the president and any president, not just Donald Trump, and it's unfair to say, any president is going to have to make a life or death decision at some point, and I do not envy it. At what point does a president finally to get enough information to say some people are still going to die, but we're at a point now where I can't go any further. Not that you know it, but have we, have we succumbed to fear too much, or what's your take?
My take is that the president, who from whatever party he or she is from, has to provide the leadership to the American public so that if there is a threat, they have the information to deal with the threat, and he lets them know that, we're all in this together and we will do everything we can, and he can't lie. The difference between Andrew Cuomo and Donald Trump is that Andrew Cuomo hasn't been lying about the facts. He hasn't been lying about the ability of the state to get PPE or masks. Donald Trump's been lying. He lied to the governors yesterday. False hope is no hope. False hope is a rabbit hole because disappointment results. Donald Trump should be saying, yes, we're behind on testing. We're doing everything we can to get you masks. Believe me, we're fast-tracking it. Instead, he's denying there's a problem. Denying there's a problem when the entire country knows there's a problem, when his home county can't test more than 2,000 people, where people are lying in hospital floors, choking and gagging, is not exactly the way to go. There's an element here. History is going to judge this president's performance, and it's not going to be good. In the meantime, we need a leader like Andrew Cuomo telling us, and the governors are doing the right job. So people are looking to their governors. They're not looking to the president. The president's getting up every day doing a press conference because that's his way of campaigning, but he's not giving us the truth in the press conferences. You know who is? Tony Fauci. And let's hope he doesn't fire Tony Fauci, who might step over the line one time and tell the truth about whether they have PPEs, whether they have testing, and whether they have respirators, and they desperately need respirators.
Well, the other day I know, and the president told the press to go look at where the masks went. He almost, it was kind of funny. I thought of the famous Goodfellas movie where they bust out the restaurant and bring in stuff in the front door and selling it the back. He more or less suggested that perhaps the hospitals were doing that with the masks.
Yeah, I know he did, and he had no information, credible information to back up that.
Well,
that was to cover for the fact that there's a shortage. So if there's a shortage, it can't possibly be the fault of the federal government and me. It has to be the fault of somebody stealing it. That's just not true. It's just not true, and he's got to stop misleading people. He's got to stop it. It's not right. This is a crisis. This is not politics as usual. He is so concerned about nothing else but his reelection that he doesn't care what he says.
Hey, you know what? I want you to throw some red meat at one of my own little things that gives me angst. What are the far right religious knuckleheads doing down there? Are they saying this is God's will?
No, they're saying it's the Jews' fault.
Who?
The Jews. Remember them? They kind of wandered around the desert for like a long time.
Oh, those guys.
When they left.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, they're saying,
you got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. One pastor down here who called when the professional guys testified at the impeachment hearing, called it a Jew coup. Now he's saying that the disease is in the synagogues because it's the Jews' fault. I'm telling you what they're saying.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? That'll stay pocketed, but still, that's a disgrace. Well, I know some people. I always go back to 9/11 when that guy on the 700 Club was saying that God is punishing us for the moral marriage of men among men and lying with men. Imagine having that worldview. Just think about it.
Well, you see, but a lot of the right has that worldview, particularly the evangelical
Well,
right.
we know the evangelicals do. But
all right,
geez.
well, that's who these pastors are, and Donald Trump, unfortunately caters to that group.
Well, they vote.
He won't continue. There were good people on both sides in Charleston. That was catering to that group. It's exactly what it was.
My goodness. Well, we're going to let you go because I have another guest coming on, but I really appreciate you. You're not playing any golf, are you?
Golf courses are closed. The private clubs are closed. You can't even get a sandwich.
Okay, well, send out then. Thank you very much, Mike Edelman, everybody. Take
Thanks,
care.
Bob.
All right, bye-bye. We're going to get another guest on in a minute. I do have to do a reset, though, and get to the traffic. Not traffic. We're not doing it because we're at a train station. We're more worried about train traffic. But we do have to look at the weather, and then we'll get to our next guest, who is the inimitable Mike Duffy. But first, this. I don't think he's ever been called inimitable before. Former cop, maybe you can't even spell it. Nah, he's a very fine defense attorney, actually. All right, it's Tuesday, March 31st. That's stupid to start off with a man who carries a gun like that, Robert. Anyway, the weather's brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org. It's 43. It's overcast. We had some sprinkles, and the sprinkles have left us. Getting up to 50 today, mostly cloudy. Tonight, cloudy still, 35. Chilly. Wednesday, partly sunny. We'll get up to 53. No rain, though. Thursday, sunshine, followed by increasing clouds. A high of 54 on Friday. Mostly cloudy, 56 degrees. And as we get into the bottom of the hour, we are supported by our friends at United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.org. Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, plug-in virtual reality. And I still have to say, maybe today, maybe tonight, I will zip by and pick up one of those burgers from, that's what I need. This is from my friends over at the Beachmont Tavern. I need that burger. Almost well. I don't need all the other stuff. I don't need a salad on a burger. If I'm getting a burger, I don't want lettuce and tomato and all that stuff. I want sauteed onions and ketchup, a little salad on the side, or am I in a French fry mood? They're all good. He says, the owner over there, Rob Hayes, says that it's the best wings in Westchester. Maybe so, and they're good. The boneless wings are good too, but the chicken had trouble without bones. But what I like is a good, solid burger from there. I think I'm going to pick one up. I'm going to call early, pick it up, and then I'm going to mash it in my face because it's so good. Anyway, obviously they're a sponsor, so full blade. But you know what, though? We didn't even issue them their contract. They agreed to do this, and they need our help. So any other restaurant out there, we will not charge you. But you got to call 914-727-2726 or shoot me an email at bob@radiowestchester.com, and I will free plug your restaurant. We want to help. We know what it's like to be a struggling business during these times. So that's for our friends at the Beachmont. Full disclosure. All righty. He is a very fine defense attorney and a guy I love to talk to because he's even-keeled, smart but streetwise, done a lot of public service in his life. He's been a police officer. He's been a detective. He's been a head of investigations for the Westchester County DA's office, and we've been lucky. He's actually run for office here in Westchester as well. He's run for the Assembly. And now, again, a very fine defense attorney out of White Plains, who I obviously love to kid. I don't know who I like to kid more, him or Andy Spano. But either way, both good guys and both great guests. Please welcome, without further ado, Mike Duffy. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Good. It kills me to say all those nice things about
I
you.
know. It's really, like I told you before, I should just hang up after that.
No, you should. You should just tape it and put it on your website and be done.
But you're
with
right
it.
about the burger thing. I mean, a burger's a burger. You get all that other stuff. I mean, come on.
Thank you. No, and I keep dreaming about it. I'm saying it every morning. And, I didn't know. One day I went in there like everyone else. I forget it was at a party a couple of years ago. And I stopped in and I said, what kind of burgers you have? And I said, you have sauteed onions? Yeah. And they said, okay, sauteed cheeseburger. No, I don't want cheese. I don't want cheese. I don't keep the lettuce. They still put it on there. I differ
with you on the cheese, but the lettuce and tomato is a bridge too far.
No, well, it's like, now let me ask you, even though you are of the Irish persuasion, do you believe, because for me it's an insomnia. Oh, there's my second person today. This is the second person I've seen going to the train. Do you believe in such a thing as salad pizza? Or do you believe that you should go back on the beat and arrest people who buy it?
You know what? I've had it. My wife made me buy it once, and it was pretty good. I got to say it was good, Bob. But it's pizza. Pizza is...
No. Listen to me. This is where now we have you on because you're the smart guy and I'm the idiot that asks questions.
Yeah, I'm
but
not that
we need to reverse roles here. I need to help you. It is unleavened bread with salad on it. That is not pizza.
Well, it's not pizza. I've had it though. You're right. It's not pizza.
Now you
but I have had it, and whatever you want to call it, it tasted pretty good.
So you let your wife tell you what to eat. We can go on that basis. So big,
yeah, or I would never eat, of course.
You got a point there. It's a lot of other things you couldn't do either. But so the big tough guy, all right, put your hands up, and not when he gets home. Yes, honey, I'll eat the salad pizza. It's a typical. I played hockey against a team from Yorkville in Manhattan. An Irish, one of the toughest, meanest group of players that ever arranged, a team called the Nationals from Yorkville in Manhattan. And they were all middle-class, street-class Irish tough guys. They all became cops, by the way. And headed up by the Shannon family. There were about 6 brothers and cousins. It was like going to the dentist.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that family.
Yeah, trust me.
But I'm Irish and German, so I'm like half and half.
That means you were the captain
of
the
that combination.
Team. Yeah, but then again, you'll follow anybody, right? Anyway, but these guys, no, I'm telling you, they were, and Vincent, we called earlier, used to play. These guys were tougher than nails. And but you know what? How we used to get even with them when their wives would come to pick them up. Dennis! All of a sudden they became church mice. I think
they dragged them out by their ear.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the program. Let's go to some of the things going on in locally. We had another case, and I know it's anecdotal, but a guy gets out of jail and right away stabs somebody. And I guess there's something we have to live with. How do you feel? And I know we can't let people die in jail either. You must have many mixed feelings about the decision to empty the jails on one hand, but also to not do so on the other. How do you look at this?
Yeah, well, we've kind of been emptying the jails anyway, and I imagine the new arrests that are occurring, probably limited in number. Most people, they don't fit into what's called a qualifying offense, and they're being given appearance tickets for down the road, like late May or even June. So that's what I've been seeing. The arraignments, now the court system is going to a video arraignment system via Zoom, but that's going to be for murders and rapes and any burglary is a tough burglary, but burglary where people go in to break into people's houses and things like that. So, like I said, the jails have been empty anyway. I noticed that even the DAs in New York City, which is unusual, are saying, wait a minute, you can't release violent offenders. Now, the violent offenders are, again, maybe a bridge too far. You can't, there's got to be some people in jail. We all understand. There's correction officers in jail, too, and they're getting sick.
Yeah.
There's defense attorneys that are in jail and go to jail and get sick, and social service workers. It's unfortunately, it's a sign of the times. But releasing somebody solely because of the coronavirus, you can't. That can't be your yardstick. You have to measure it against something else. What exactly was the crime? So.
Well, absolutely. It is.
Well, like I said, Bob, we've been doing that with the bail reform.
Yep.
It's funny, it comes at this time. The Westchester County Jail holds a lot of people. There are floors empty in that jail, which is good for the prisoners now, good for the inmates in that they can space
spread
them
out
more.
Now,
but that's a big place, and they only have about 600 prisoners, I'm told, at this point in time, which is not many for the Westchester County Jail.
Now, I don't know enough about how this works, and unfortunately, my best friend in the business, well, one of my 2 best friends in the business is another radio host is on in the morning, so I can't have him on. But
no, but you can't have 2 best friends either.
No, I didn't. No, in the business, details.
Actually,
counselor.
One is not as good a friend as the other, right? So, just saying.
See, this is why this how you interrogate people. So now you have me stuttering.
Yeah, I guess that's the
why didn't you interrogate your wife like that when she brought home salad pizza?
No, because I want to eat.
No, fine, okay, but can they? Can't they keep the guys, and even though it's got to be awful, in their cells and bring them food, or is that logistically impossible?
I don't know how they're doing that. I don't know if they're eating in
because that's where they're going to spread the virus.
I do not know the details of that. I know they shut down civilian visits which is smart, to the jail. And lawyers are doing video conferencing now. Before they were allowing lawyers in, I actually went there myself, and it was, you walk right in now, and sometimes you got to wait a half hour or maybe a little longer just to get in and see your client. But it was right indoors, just before the real shutdown really hit. But I don't know what their rules are as to feeding the inmates and things like that.
Interesting stuff.
It is interesting.
It really is, because just because someone is incarcerated, and some people can be very glib about it, or flip is a better word, and say, well, they're in jail anyway, let them die. That's horrible. When in this country, freedom is so important that the whole term that when you're under arrest, that police officer or those who incarcerate you have a sacred duty to protect you.
Right, but Bob, maybe they're a little safer in there. I mean,
I was going to say
the
that.
correctional officers are screened. I guess they're getting their temperatures taken, and if they're isolated in jail, they're not out amongst the general population because they're going to go back to their neighborhoods, back to wherever they hang, whatever, and interact with people who do have the virus. So maybe, I'm just saying the other side of the coin is maybe they're a little bit safer in there.
Well, they might be. In fact,
more isolated.
There was a case of one guy got himself arrested so he could go to jail and be safe. I forget what state it was.
Really?
Was doing my research. Yeah.
Well, I used to see that in the wintertime. They used to have this crime. It was a crime, actually a violation called PI, public intoxication, which was found to be unconstitutional. And they used to, at 3 o'clock in the morning, throw bricks through windows of stores in White Plains just to get arrested because it was 5 degrees out and they wanted to go to jail.
3 squares?
Yeah.
Three squares,
I mean,
a shower?
That actually happened quite a few times.
Ever been in a bad relationship or anything like that? You want to go to jail or go into Merchant Marines? It is 7:48. I wanted to take it to another topic, and then we'll get back into the streets. But I want to mind the defense attorney part of you. I was looking at the Weinstein case, and he should be punished appropriately. However, what I thought was unprecedented was having all these, not unprecedented, but I didn't think it was fair to have all these other people testify against him, or a fair number of people who may have been abused, but the statute of limitations passed, A, B, but he wasn't being tried for those crimes. So, is the law murky on this, or are we getting carried away because of the Me Too movement?
Well, there's, it's an evidentiary issue in the law. I don't know how they introduced that. I didn't follow it that closely, except for the headlines. He was. I always thought he was going to be convicted. I know you had and another attorney that said he was not going to be convicted, and my guess was it was going to be a Solomon-like decision. They were going to split the baby, which is in fact what they did.
What they did, yeah.
I don't know, Bob. It might be go under the prior bad acts, where there's rules in the law where you can present certain things to show a person's propensity to commit a crime, but that's objectionable, and defense attorneys can raise objections. And now he was charged with many offenses against different women. So I don't know if there were women that just
what I found to be, look, he certainly
something
was.
That didn't happen to them.
He certainly was guilty, but what I found, there were just things to me that were paradoxes. I'll give you an example. There were some of the women with whom, in fact, women that he was charged to have raped and convicted. There are also women who later on had a relationship with him that was consensual and even sent like love notes back and forth. Okay, now that's fine because as the judge or anyone charging a jury would say, it's about that incident that day.
Right.
So if on one hand we're saying it's about that incident that day, and then they're bringing in all this other stuff, those seem to me to be contradictory.
Well, again, there's hearsay rules, there's prior bad acts, there's, but again, you really have to look at the exact details on that before I would be able to.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to understand. No, because I'm trying to understand the law because
testimony was allowed.
He was an evil guy who deserves everything he gets. Okay, but we don't put people in jail for being miserable human beings. They have to break the law, which he did. But see, to me, if I was his defense attorney, I don't know that he could have gotten a fair trial.
Well, I don't know if this happened 3 or 4 years ago, that even if he was convicted, that he would have gotten the sentence that he got.
Because, as you well know, the law is not about the truth. The law is about what you can prove. And that is one of the necessary faults in the system, because guys like Weinstein have been getting away with stuff like this for thousands of years. And I always worry that we'll forget the nature of the law and our condemnation of people like him. I just have a lot of respect for the law.
Well, it comes down to the judges too, Bob, if it's, in sentencing guidelines. Because, look, for a misdemeanor in New York, right? It's okay, it can be serious. You could have a criminal record for the rest of your life. But say you're convicted for a misdemeanor, petty larceny or something like that. You can get a sentence from what's called a conditional discharge, or even an unconditional discharge, which means, just go away. Conditional discharge is go away, but don't get in trouble for a year, but it's not probation or anything like that. Or you can get a year in jail. Now, I know of an incident that happened in a city court where there was a conference held, and there was a young man who was charged with speeding, and, speeding is speeding, right? Depends on how fast you're going. Is it reckless? But the attorney had worked out a deal with the judge. A different judge was on the bench. Long story short, the guy, and it's not funny, I'm just chuckling because it's outrageous in my opinion. He got 30 days in jail in the Westchester County Jail for speeding. So, you
Really?
have to have judges who are on the up and up, who don't abuse sentencing guidelines. And judges must sound stupid, but they must be just. You don't give some kid who's speeding 30 days in jail, as opposed to even somebody who steals a candy bar from CVS. So the judges must be, they must be good people, and 99% of them are. But then you get the occasional wacky one or something like that does these outrageous things.
Well, obviously, but we've talked about judges before, and it's a very dangerous thing for you to engage in. But there are good judges and there are bad judges, I guess, and like anything else.
Yeah, and sometimes the judges, I'm talking about when it's pure discretion, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the judge's hands are tied. Like there's certain, actually, believe it or not, vehicle and traffic crimes, not speeding, but vehicle and traffic offenses where the judge's hand is tied. There's an offense called aggravated unlicensed operation, second degree. I don't want to get too technical, but if a person is found guilty of that, they must be sentenced to the court by either incarceration or 3 years probation plus a $500 fine. The judge has no discretion in that. He has to assess the fine, and he either has to sentence the person to probation or jail. Now, that takes the discretion completely out of the hands of the judges. So in that case, you say, oh, boy, that judge is a hard guy. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't. Yeah, but that's the sentence pursuant to the law. That has to change, in my opinion. I don't know why that's like that, but I digress.
No, actually, you don't digress. In fact, you just lighted my brain up for something. We do have still one kangaroo court in this country that I will criticize until they put me in the grave, because I've been in there. And maybe they don't have any other way. But when you go to a New York City court to fight a ticket,
oh, yeah.
you are wasting your time.
Bob,
and
that's one of my pet peeves. That is an administrative hearing, right? And you don't have to be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
No, you're guilty the day you walk in.
Evidence, which means whatever anybody says that gets up there, oh my God, it is such that. And again, we call them courts, but they're actually administrative hearings.
They're kangaroo
judges
courts.
Are administrative law judges.
True case.
It's an outrage.
No, it's an outrage, and they even write stories, particularly in Staten Island. There's one judge who was 20 years ago now, who was so famous they wrote stories about him, but nobody did anything about it. I had a case where it was so clear-cut, and again, it was before I could afford to have an attorney. It literally happened in front of a house I owned for 15 years. There were two lights that are, every once in a while when an intersection is so wide, you have two lights that are sequenced right next to each other, and they always change at the same time. And it was 200 feet from my house. So I'm sitting there, and The other one was green, mine was red, and there were like 50 cars behind me beeping, and they were right. The light was broken. I'd been there 15 years. I knew it. So I just crawled through it, and behind me was a cop car. So they gave me a ticket for going through the light. I go to court, and the judge didn't want to hear anything. Well, they saw you. I said, I don't care what they saw. I lived there, Your Honor, for 15 years. The light was broken, and they didn't want to be embarrassed, the cops, so they lied, like, honestly. And I just sat there, and I was infuriated. And but then I started looking into this judge, and I forget what he said to me. He was going to hold me in contempt. He said, I didn't tell you can speak. I said, well, do I get to speak?
Well, I tell you, Bob, I've been in a lot of those situations, those hearings, and I don't like going to them, because you're not even allowed to negotiate. You can go in there, and the cops are in there, and the police officer's there, and you walk up to them. I remember the first time I appeared, counsel, I can't talk to you. What do you mean you can't talk to me? So you go to any other court in Westchester, the state of New York, first you speak to a town attorney or you speak to the police officer, and you try to work something out. If you don't work it out, then you can either plead guilty as charged or you can go to trial. It's a fair system. And the burden of proof is higher. Why should the burden of proof be higher if you're in the Bronx and 500 yards north, you're in Pelham, and the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, and in the city it's clear and convincing evidence for the same offense.
Yep,
that doesn't make sense.
And you know where you never want to get a speeding ticket? Ever in New Jersey, because the governor who became a priest, I forget his name now.
I know who you're talking about.
He put in a rule where if let's say they get you for, like they got me, and I did, it was true. They got me doing 38 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. I didn't see one of those speed traps, but I did it. And I said, my God, it was the first time I've ever been on this road. I didn't see that. Well, my lawyer said it because I called someone who knew about it. Well, we plead you down and get you out of points, but in addition to the $200 ticket, you got to pay another $250. That is as close to extortion as anything could ever be. But
I see that all the time, too, even in the regular courts where the judge will say, hey, listen, I'll authorize this plea deal, but they don't say it this way. I'll be more inappropriate. I'll say, well, I'm going to bang your client on the fine.
Yeah.
So the client goes, well, I don't want points if I'm going to do this, so I'll pay a little more. So you're right. I mean, they're holding the fine over your head, and the judge says, hey, Mr. Duffy, your client doesn't have to do this. You can go to trial. And I tell my clients know the whole story going in because I try to be informative when I'm dealing with them, and they go, no, I don't want to go to trial. And they'll pay the extra money. So are they really free not to pay that money? But that's
no, they're not. You just do it, and you know what? The insurance company dings you anyway a little bit because it's still something on your record.
And that's why you would want to do that. Certain offenses. No points they can get. There's a certain offense called a 1201, which is in New York. Basically, it's a parking violation.
Yeah.
So insurance doesn't even get notified on that. It's not a true moving violation.
Well, then they get you for dangerous driving, and that sounds even worse.
I know. But what I'm saying is, if you plead guilty to something else, and you get great, I got a low fine. All of a sudden, you get a notice from your insurance company. Your insurance is going up because you had this violation. So you really didn't end up saving money because of that.
That was exactly my point. Well, listen, as always, it's a pleasure. Have your wife call me. She won't bring home salad treats again.
Well, and there's Reagan. She didn't like that.
Reagan agrees with me. Gee, I wonder. Let's see. A Republican lawyer. I wonder who the dog's named after. Anyway, thank you very much, Mike
Thanks,
Duffy,
Bob.
Great defense attorney. We appreciate your time. Hezzy Harris is up next. We knew he would ring. And I love this. I did not plug him in quickly enough, but Hezzy Harris up next. We're going to talk with him. In fact, we're going to tell him. Hezzy, the other line is free if you call on it. This one has some hickeys in it. We freed it up, please. All righty, folks. We are going to go to the weather. And the weather's brought to you by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.org. And again, we'll be with Hezzy Harris in just 1 minute. He, as you know, is the Grand High Exalted Mystic Ruler of the Yonkers Tribune. It's Oh, it's already 45 degrees. We like that. Getting up to 50 today. We had some rain. We don't think we're going to see any more showers, but it's going to be mostly cloudy the rest of the day. Tonight, still cloudy, 35. Tomorrow, partly sunny. We'll take that. 53, no rain, though. We'll take that as well. And on into Thursday, sunshine followed by increasing clouds, a high of 54. And as we go rolled into Friday, mostly cloudy, 56 degrees. And as we head to the top of the 8 o'clock hour and we welcome Hezi Aris, we remind you we're supported by Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne and Kahn, and our friends at the Beachmont Tavern. Please welcome, without further ado, one of the people who inspired the creation of this radio station, a hard-nosed, true investigative journalist out of Yonkers. Please, it's Yonkers Tribune. He also has a radio show that we'll get him to tell you about. But please welcome Hezi Aris. Good morning, Hezi.
Good morning. How are you?
Pretty well. Sorry about flipping you there on the phones. That other line has been giving us some trouble, but it's great to have you. We see that the incidences of the coronavirus have increased in your town.
Absolutely, because there was a lot of it was covered up for quite a while.
Why was it covered up is the question.
I don't know, because I think I guess the best way to put it is that the city of Yonkers doesn't know how to celebrate anything that it does that is good, and has no clue on how to deal with contentious issues that might show them not in the best light, but not in a deleterious way because they didn't cause it. Why would you be embarrassed to point out that you have an issue and that members of your police department have come down with the coronavirus? Why would anyone in his right mind think that that's inappropriate? But they do. It's stupid. It's stupid. There is nothing other than that. Stupidity is what's ruling here.
Now,
clear-minded people would never do that.
Now, we saw in here in New Rochelle, and to a greater extent down in New York City, where the racist superintendent there holds sway, or chancellor, attempts to keep the schools open, and a lot of it was for show, and a lot of it was so that people could be fed, which opens up a whole nother issue. So this is not new. But in your city, they kept it under wraps. No, what I'm saying is to lie to us and to hide the fact that people were sick. Why do you think they were doing it in Yonkers?
Because they don't go outside of their own bubble. They live in an insular world. They didn't see what was going on with de Blasio in New York, and they didn't see that his construct and the definition of what he wanted the city to do and how to balance all these different issues that he had to contend with as the mayor didn't work. And so by the time we came on the scene, because we didn't have that major cluster, and New York was number one, it's still number one as far as people getting infected. And but the problem, the point is that even New Rochelle dealt with it well. So how come we didn't deal with it well? We were not the first. We were not the second. We were not even noticed to be the third. Yet we are.
But
we eclipse everybody else. Isn't that great?
Yeah, you did eclipse everybody else. And it was almost a certainty, because what we're seeing is a fair consistency with density and incidence of the illness, whether it be in New York City, New Rochelle. Yonkers should have been the first.
But let me interrupt. Is this illogical? Would you not have been able to figure that out on your own? Did you need any medical advice? I mean, how dumb are we?
Duh.
What kind of bullshit are we constantly repeating over and over again? Well, it makes sense. If you got a city of 7 or 8 million people like we do in New York, where do you think it's going to come from?
Of course.
Okay.
Stop
there you go.
Stop making sense, Hezi. Stop it.
I don't want to make sense.
Stop.
I don't make sense.
Stop it. It's ruining my show.
Okay.
It's supposed to be
I'm sorry.
Controversial. Tell a lie. Do something. Go ahead.
No, I don't need to make the lies up because the other people in the city that I cover are doing a bang up job of it.
Now, don't they
That's all.
realize that you're out there lurking like a cop? Like I've got some really good, well-informed callers that keep me honest, and but
Hmm.
don't they realize you keep them honest?
Well, they think that they are being kept in place because I expose everything that they do, not from a vindictive perspective. I am just sick and tired of the con games that we have to go through, and at the end of the day, while they exalt that everything is hunky dory, the bottom line it isn't. And if instead of trying to cover up the warts and all, which everyone has, then why don't we just celebrate what we're doing well and work with and contend with the issues where we're not doing well? Now, is that so difficult to do?
No.
I don't get it. Okay, well there you go. So you and I are in agreement, but I don't govern Yonkers, and neither do you.
What else is going on? You're always chock full of stuff. What else is going on besides they're holding back on the coronavirus stuff?
Well, we have over 50 people now. It's about 60
Oh
people in
God,
the
I'm
Yonkers
getting...
Police Department that are infected. We don't tell people that it went up that high. And only yesterday, the police commissioner admitted to it in one of these Facebook live programs. And you know what? People are sick and tired of having to go to Facebook, not because it's a bad thing, but you have to recognize that a lot of people, probably over 40, don't go on Facebook as much as you think.
Mm-hmm.
And the point is, we are not a young city. We're not a city of 40-year-olds. We are a city of 60, 65-year-olds because we're an older city. And the bottom line is they're not on Facebook. So they don't hear it. They're not noticed. Besides, not that it's worthwhile even listening, because I listened to Police Commissioner Mueller yesterday's show, almost an hour of absolute diarrhea, said nothing, and repeated himself over and over and over again as if he's got no vocabulary, at least not between his ears. Who knows where it is?
Okay.
I don't know what else to tell you. It is just what it is. The thing that'll blow your mind, and this is where you understand the deleterious aspect of their conduct. For example, the police commissioner says to the working men and women in blue, he said, I want to change your time schedule from your 8-hour day to a 12-hour tour of duty, and then you'll work 3 times a week. Now, they tried this a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and guess who was the one that needed to shepherd this program through, because it was his idea then, too? It was none other than now the police commissioner, John Mueller. But it failed. It failed miserably. And the reason it failed was because if you engaged in a 12-hour tour over 3 days, what you ended up doing was you were exhausting people's capacity to fight off whatever ailed or whatever was going on. Your immunity system drops when working such long and very arduous type of work.
Mm-hmm.
It's mentally grueling. It's physically grueling. And when you work 12 hours, why do you think police officers are over at the Dunkin' Donuts buying donuts and coffee? Because their system is just racked, and they can't function without another sugar boost and another coffee to bump them up to something that's better. But that's not appropriate. So now he says to these police officers, last week, he says, well, we're going to change your hours to this sort of program. It's going to work better for you. And you know what the reason was? He says, the reason is because you're less likely to get infected by working a 12-hour shift rather than an 8-hour shift.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
What a mental midget to come up with a plan like that. You can get infected in 5 minutes, or you can get infected in 12 hours. How do you know when you're going to be infected? You have to time it,
Well,
let's
it's
see
like
now.
anything else. Well, yeah, it's a statistical. It's almost what is the legal term? De minimis. I mean, it's
Absurdity.
I like the what's the word you used? Or ignominious or something. I got out the
Oh,
dictionary.
well, whatever it was.
Deleterious. Yes, I like that word.
Deleterious.
I suffered from deleteria.
Well,
Hezi
we all
Arist is
do.
my guest, the managing editor and publisher of the Yonkers Tribune.
Wait, it gets better than all of this.
Go
What
ahead.
ended up happening after that,
Uh-huh.
after he presented this to the troops, there was a little bit of kickback from certain divisions,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end, he said, well, they said they preferred not to do that. They didn't think it was right. They didn't think it would work. So then he and the PBA president, Keith Olson, because they're chums, they're like best friends forever, they decided that they can impose this 12-hour tour without getting approval from the PBA membership, and that there would be no need for a vote. And you know what their excuse was?
What?
Their excuse was that the nation is under a national security emergency. The nation is under a national security emergency. The president, and I checked with his tweets, never said anything like that. I checked with Reuters, never had anything written to that effect. I checked with other news wires, nothing like it. Then I checked with the governor's office. They never said anything like that. And the mayor never issued anything like that. So the point is, it was a lie. So now we're operating on a 12-hour shift for the sake of a lie, and there's nothing you can do. When you're one of the troops, you got to do what the bosses tell you to do. Otherwise, you're out the door. And this is where it goes wrong. And that's why the city of Yonkers looks as it does. And everybody's got an opinion about it. And it goes beyond what we can even talk about on the air.
It's got to be frustrating because these themes, if I may, Hezi Arist, these themes
Sure.
seem to continue. They roll over. They don't go away. There doesn't seem to be any healing.
There's no healing if you don't care about the people you employ. And that goes with the police commissioner who doesn't give a hoot what's going to happen with his people. And there is no interest. Even the mayor doesn't come out, hasn't said anything. Isn't it amazing? You got the governor of the state out there every day talking about new issues that he's learned about this and trying to explain to people how to contend with it. And he seems to be getting a tremendous amount of attention from the nation. Okay, well, that's him. And some people liked him before, hated him before. Now they're saying, well, at least he's doing a good job, whether they like him from the past or not. The point is he's doing a good job. The president is not doing such a great job because he's floundering. He sometimes reaches out or he takes a shot from the hip, and it's inappropriate. And in Yonkers, our mayor is gone, not to be seen, not to be heard, no press release, other than one bromide after another.
I wonder
why. Like, we'll get it. We'll get through this. We'll get through this together. Really? How are you going to get through it together when we can't even find you? Where are you? You're hiding out.
One of the things,
like everybody else.
One of the things I've observed in the cities where a Democrat just has to show up to win, with the exception of New Rochelle, where Bramson's been out there and he had every cause to with what happened. But whether it's Tom Roach up in White Plains or the aforementioned Mr. Spano here, they don't even like to come on the radio because they know they don't have to. They don't have to do anything, and they know that they're going to get reelected. They're president for life. Well, and in the case of your city, he re-engineered his third term.
Absolutely. So he's now going into his ninth year. Hey, look at the dysfunction. I don't know what they're doing in New Rochelle or in any other place because I have enough on my plate just to contending with Yonkers. But, for example, the 1st of April is supposed to be the final day when the governor wants the budget approved. So I get an email, which I rarely ever do, but I got one from Shelley Mayer because we don't agree on a lot of things because she's got a big mouth, but she doesn't deliver. She's never delivered. So the point is, if she's one of our delegates, how come she's incapable of delivering what we need? And she's not been able to do that. So she sends an email and says, well, we're supposed to work out the budget. And she said that within a few days, she's going to send out a notice of what the budget is like. But we're now in a hole on the state level to the tune of $10 billion. The city of Yonkers has squandered its rainy day fund. We have nothing left. We are bereft in every way, and yet we're paying through the nose to people who don't do their job. Now, you tell me why I shouldn't be outraged. And you know what the problem is? In the city of Yonkers, I'm one of the lone voices that tells it the way it is, and people agree, but they're so afraid of the hierarchy that they will lose their job. They keep their mouths shut. And the problem is, whether you look at the Journal News, who may come up with one fancy schmancy, but very, very thin depth of a story. They just skim the top, and they don't tell you the entire story, and then they think they've done a wonderful thing, and they only cover Yonkers, once or twice a week? They barely cover White Plains. Do you ever get a story about New Rochelle? That's the point. What are they doing? They're doing nothing, and they're not informing. If you look at CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, Channel 11, Channel 9, you know what? When there's a story out there, everyone covers it, except in Yonkers. No validation from anybody for anything.
Do you know who used to, and I don't know what his deal is, when he was on Fox, Dick Brennan used to cover the Yonkers pretty consistently.
Now on CBS.
He is in CBS now, but so I don't know how much they cover Yonkers, but that's a good question. Again, my guest, Hezi Aris, he's one of the people that covers Yonkers like a glove. In fact, for the sake of future broadcasts, I think we agreed on this, but Hezi gets to change it. Starting next week, he will be with us each day at each Tuesday, and I'm making sure I get this right. Today is Tuesday, isn't it? And I'll be moving the other one back. He will be with us from 8 until 8:35. We'll be getting him off a little earlier today, but that's still good for you, right? 8 through 8:35?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
One thing, what was it I wanted to... Oh, yeah. One thing, I had the Westchester County District Attorney, Anthony Scarpino, on. It was on the... When was it? On the 5th of March, I had him on the radio show on Westchester on the Level. And I suggested that crime had increased by 40% in Yonkers. So he said, no, you're wrong. And so I said, so how did it increase? He said, yeah, it increased, but it's only at 39. So I thanked
You're serious.
I'm telling you.
39
and
to 40.
I actually posted a copy of the audio show of the show in the article that I wrote, the editorial I wrote a couple of days ago, to prove that I'm not the quack. They are. They tell you that crime has gone down, but it doesn't. And if our police, even our
can
police,
can I reiterate this, because I admit having a soft spot for Anthony Scarpino, but people must be called out. No, it's what we do. If I heard you right, you said crime 40%, up 40%, and he said you're wrong. It's up 39%.
Correct. And I thanked him for it because he corroborated what I already knew, but I did it based on my own extrapolation, and I'm really good at numbers, so I really was able to recognize that. So I wasn't very far off.
No, by a point. I'm surprised he said you were wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, did he say it lightheartedly? Well, you're a little off. It's 39.
No, it was not a derogatory statement. He just said, matter of fact, you're wrong. It's 39%.
Okay, but
I thanked him.
Right, because he corroborated. Yeah, he corroborated.
Exactly. But at least he's honest and corroborated instead of towing the line of inaccuracy just for the sake of what, PR?
Don't you just love this job? Well, listen, when is your radio show today, and what are you talking about?
Oh, well, today we're going to be, I got to quickly look because, we're speaking to John Connors, and from 10 to 10:30.
I know this
and
name.
John is very, very interesting because he put together, or he's rather the Northeast director of a group of people called Team Rubicon. And remember when Caesar crossed the Rubicon?
Absolutely.
Well, these people, Team Rubicon, what they've done is they've created a duality of purpose. They engage people in the military who literally have to reclaim their humanity because of the things that they saw in on the war.
That's very sensible.
Whatever the war is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the first job that they ever did was 10 years ago. They flew to the Dominican Republic. They paid for it on their own. They raised the funds. They got the medication. They did what they needed to do, and they crossed the border into Haiti. That was at the time of the earthquake. And when they crossed the border, they recognized that this was their Rubicon. And what they do is absolutely mind-boggling. I practically was crying when I read about this history, and I'm saying, where's the movie?
My brother could show. I got to tell my brother about this. He left Vietnam, had a very sensible career, but he still feels horrible about some of the things that he had to do in Vietnam.
Well, the thing is that this maybe you can't expunge those memories, but what you can do is point out that what they have from the military is technology and capacity that the normal human being doesn't have. They get an education to do what they do, and it's not always for negative reasons. But the point is, they're equipped. Whereas a normal human being like me, I guess, assuming I'm normal, I don't have that equipment.
That's a great.
I just don't have it.
That's a great leap, Hezzy Harris. Listen, thank you very much, and remember next week.
Oh yeah, and then I forgot to tell you at 10:30 we're going to be speaking to Sean Patterson Howard, the mayor of the city of Mount Vernon.
Well, I'm going to prep you because she's coming on with us in just a couple of minutes. Now, remember next week, Hezzy Harris will be with us from 8 to 8:35 each and every Tuesday, and then Sean Patterson Howard 8:35 on to 9. All righty, thank you so much, Hezzy Harris. We love you. Take care. All righty, we got our next guest is there, or it might not be. Someone else was trying to call in. Sean Patterson Howard, as you know, is the mayor of Mount Vernon. Let me just make sure. Good morning. Nope. How does that happen? I picked them up and they're not there. I tell them and they don't listen. This is Radio Westchester. I'm Bob Marrone. This is Mornings with Bob Marrone. It is 8:23. Sean Patterson Howard. Then we'll have a quick conversation. We're going to be moving his with Del from Hoosler, another Yonkers man, see what stories he's following. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to hear from Jake, talk a little bit with Professor Breslin. Get out a little early today to take care of some business. But this is the one, the only. Now, where is... there it is. Okay, yeah, let me tell her she can call now. Folks, this is me practicing social distancing. I have to do everything myself, which I don't mind, but it means I have to be like the man behind the scene. You remember in Wizard of Oz, except I don't have a curtain. The windows are open and people can see what I do. So hopefully she got my... I can call her, but see if I call her... All right, call now. Okay. All righty, I digress. We have reached out. I checked on that pizzeria where the guy took a $50,000 loan down in South Jersey to pay his workers, and we are going to get a hold of them for that purpose. Well, evidently, if they don't want to call me, I will call them. And this is just how we roll. Info. All righty. I'm calling the mayor now. Hi, Mayor. It's Bob. Hold on a second. Sorry about that delay. Okay, please welcome the mayor of Mount Vernon, Sean Patterson Howard. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Very well. We're running a little bit late, but as you can see, or if you're watching, but otherwise, we're sealed in the studio, and I'm handling literally everything myself. So it's
Yeah.
doors are locked. And so far, Mayor, I've only seen 4 people this morning. It's the lowest ever walk by. And you've been in the studio. I'm right here in the middle of it. It's incredible. It's
Oh,
dead
yeah.
here.
It's a ghost town.
You've been busy, and as always, one of the we're going to talk about the coronavirus, of course, and what you're doing. But a story jumped off the page at me. It always does when it involves the comptroller, and the story was about not not approving the hiring of firefighters.
Yes.
Good grief! Can you tell us about that and what is going on? And I'm sure now with this virus, you have to wait for the comptroller to come in. But what's the latest with her?
I mean, well, the whole firefighter issue, as it was laid out in the Journal News, is back in October of 2019. There were 11 vacancies in our fire service, and the fire commissioner, deputy commissioner, the training director, had identified the individuals that they were prepared to hire. They interviewed them. They went through their psychologicals and different exams that they have to go through, and they were ready to hire. Unfortunately, the comptroller's daughter's child's father, the father of the comptroller's grandchild, is not a Mount Vernon resident. He's a Yonkers resident. He had taken the written exam and passed it, but they had sent him a letter saying that, even though he passed the test, that because he was not a Mount Vernon resident, he was not eligible to take the agility test, the physical test.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because Mount Vernon residents, based on a Vulcan firefighters consent decree that was negotiated many, many years ago, Mount Vernon residents, we exhaust our Mount Vernon resident list first. And that firefighter decree back then had to do with the fact that African American residents who had passed the exam were never brought into the fire department, and so that is a ruling that still stands and that the department still operates under, and that made him ineligible to take the physical agility part. The comptroller referred to that as kind of like nonsense and said that there were unfair civil service practices happening in the city of Mount Vernon and that no firefighters could be hired or fired until she did an audit and an investigation. Based on what we know, there was never an audit or an investigation. There were no findings. There was no report issued. She just blocked them from hiring those firefighters. When I met with her prior to coming in after I was mayor-elect, she did tell me about the situation and say that the fire department was operating illegally and unethically because of this situation of giving preference to residents. That's where we are. And so here we are now on the last day of March. These firefighters, if they were hired then and went through their 16 weeks of training, they'd be on the street now. They'd be out there helping us with fires. We had a 2-alarm fire yesterday. They could have helped with that. And so, the impact on the fire department has been continual understaffing, which causes an increase in overtime, which causes firefighters who are fighting, really some of the largest fires in the county. And most frequently, their bodies are tired. There's a wear and strain on their bodies. And in the midst of coronavirus, everything comes back to coronavirus right now. We have 8 firefighters who are out now.
My God.
And so 11 vacancies, a retirement or 2, people out on line of duty injuries, 8 firefighters out on with coronavirus. We're feeling it. We're feeling it now. Our fire department's still fighting fires.
And it's going to increase their exposure to the virus and everything else. Mayor, one of the things that comes to mind, and we went through this in the last administration too, does the city charter give her this much authority to be able, in effect, to keep inhibiting, even if she were, by God's truth, if there is such a thing, correct in some of these things, does it give her the authority to keep overruling a chief executive that's trying to do her job?
This this is a clear abuse of power and a dereliction of duties on her part. The level of gross incompetence is staggering and dizzying. And we are in communication with the New York State Comptroller's Office. Hopefully, we will have a engagement meeting tomorrow or Thursday,
Good.
Via phone or Zoom or web, however it's done, and we'll be able to move forward. She continues to put things on the Facebook page and send out letters via the tax letters. She puts additional information in with the tax letters, stating that I'm illegal, I'm incompetent, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm thwarting government business, I'm asking for exorbitant raises, I am just hiring people left and right. We haven't been able to hire anyone.
Can she be impeached?
She doesn't recognize the budget being passed. She doesn't recognize salary resolutions. She's not giving our unions their step increases. Yesterday I signed checks that had invoices and vouchers going back to January 2019 for the fire department.
My goodness. You're listening to Radio
department.
Westchester. Our guest is Mayor Sean Patterson Howard of Mount Vernon. We're talking about some of the issues with the comptroller. Does your charter have an impeachment clause, and would the city council go along? I realize that there are factions everywhere. Can she be impeached?
I have not seen that. I have not seen that. We do know that the governor and the state comptroller has the right to remove her for 60 days as they investigate, and then they can make a permanent decision to remove her. And, I am praying that when they come in, they'll see the need to do that and be prepared to make a bold move.
Well, you know what's
because
news?
It's going to take political courage.
Oh, absolutely. And as you know, and I have I'm just a little talk show host, but I'm calling them out on that, particularly the comptroller, for some time. And I hope, going back to prior to your administration, and I hope that they will act for the good of you and particularly the good of the people of Mount Vernon. What was surprising is I had assumed incorrectly that because of the coronavirus crisis that the comptroller would not be acting soon enough. But the fact that you've mentioned that there may be some sort of a visual meeting is good. I'm going to sneeze. Bear with me. Sorry about that. I don't have the virus, by the way, and it can't come through the wires, Mayor Sean Patterson Howard. Mayor, turning now to the virus, and continued luck with that. As you can tell, I could not support you enough in this effort to deal with that issue. But moving forward with the coronavirus, I know you had some issues with the hospital, or at least that they were reported, and then others would call in and say, no, but all the hospitals have shortages. Did you have undue shortages at your hospital, A? B, have they been corrected? C, is this, do you think, at least a bright light from this crisis will be perhaps the saving of the hospital?
Well, right now we know it's slowing down the shutdown of the hospital. Do we desire for our hospital to be saved? Absolutely. And we are continuing to push those efforts. I had a conference call with the hospital with Senator Bailey, Senator Biaggi, and our legislator Williams on Sunday to get some updates as to where they are as they ramp up and come into compliance with the governor's office to be 100% operational. And so we had that conversation, and we let them know what our desires were going forward in no uncertain terms, and that clearly there is a need for a local hospital here in Mount Vernon. It plays a critical role in the region, and not only do we want the hospital open, but we want it to be properly staffed. We want there to be, high quality services and comprehensive services as well.
Well, here's hoping that will go your way. Let's go now to the nursing home that became an epicenter. Is that under control yet?
Well, the level of the infection rate that we've seen has slowed. They haven't reported any new numbers in the past few days. They're up to about 30 cases.
Wow, God, that's tough
we could
for them.
assume a lot of that happened in the early stages before they were, increasing their protocols to prevent the spread. Once it gets into a congregate care facility like that, it's very difficult to manage it. But it is not impossible, but it is difficult because you have people who are older, who have weakened immune systems, a ventilation system. So those are just some of the concerns. But we have not continued to see the numbers grow outside of, outside of really 30 in the past few days.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Now, we did see in the lists, and again, it makes sense in all the cities. You have perhaps the densest city in the state after Manhattan, 4 square miles and 80,000 people. Do you? I know you're seeing an increase in cases. How have the efforts for social distancing, and again, you were even ahead of yourself trying to close the beauty parlors. You reversed it when the governor said perhaps you should, but now you've closed them again. 2 things. How, in general, do you feel the efforts are going in your city? What would you like to tell us? And B, we did read where some people are going to be opening up their own, and I guess we can't do anything about it, barbers and stuff at home, and I guess we got to live with that, or salons at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're operating out of an incident command system here. So yes, we still have our departments, but we've also created cross-functional teams here in the city of Mount Vernon to focus on, planning around this virus, the logistics of how we need to serve the community, the operations from the top level, and how we're financing it so we can keep track of all of this, potentially for reimbursement from FEMA after all of this is over. We created a social distancing task force, and that's comprised of staff from the Office of Emergency Management, police, fire, buildings department, and individuals from our recreation department and youth bureau. And they've been going around to the different businesses, essential businesses, to ensure that they are following social distancing guidelines. We've created best practices around social distancing for essential businesses. We've handed out that information. We have created opportunities for staffers of those organizations to whistleblow and express concerns around maybe unfair labor practices or potentially being exposed or them not sanitizing their location properly. It's a work in progress. Anywhere you go, you're going to see. We've closed down the playgrounds. We closed down all of our playgrounds.
I saw
removed
that.
basketball hoops. We removed basketball hoops from our school playgrounds, from our city-owned playgrounds, all throughout the city. But it is still a challenge because people do not take what is going on seriously until they are personally impacted, whether they're positive, a family member's positive, or someone that they know and care about dies. So it is still a challenge. There are many cries from my constituents for us to lock the city down. They're like, put a curfew in place, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and lock the city down like other places have done. Unfortunately, because the governor has done his executive decree, we cannot go above and beyond in restricting movement in our community than what the governor has allowed. And so while I am the mayor, part of all of our powers locally have been taken away
A little bit. Now,
in
Mayor,
the midst of this virus to ensure that we're compliant on a statewide level. And I understand what the governor's saying.
No, Mayor, am I hearing you right? If it were up to you, you would tighten the curfews in your own city?
Absolutely.
And is that because, again, being a densely populated city, there's a tendency to live in your own bubble? Do you get you sound almost disappointed that people aren't complying to the extent that you would like. Is that a fair statement?
That is, yes, it is. It's very frustrating.
And
it's very frustrating. And I don't think that I'm unique. Look, we're not seeing that much traffic, but there are pockets of people that still do not take this seriously. Whether people are outside playing dice, some of the hanging around near the bodegas.
I've seen the same thing in the west end of New Rochelle. There were groups of people hanging out on the corners there. Absolutely. And I'm surprised, and maybe they have. I'm not there all day. I'm here, and then I'm running around. The police don't say, hey, look, just an order, just, hey, disperse, But,
and our police are saying that. They're telling people to move along. But again, it would be easier if there were maybe some stricter guidelines that people had to follow right now, and that we had some teeth to enforce them.
Mayor, how are your police and fire and other professionals? You've got people that do sanitation. How are they dealing with all this? How is attendance?
Well, definitely, as we had our first few infections,
Sure.
there was a lot of angst, there was a lot of fear, anxiety. But I have to commend them because, like the professionals they are who have taken an oath, they are carrying through on their oath to protect and serve our community and to respond, as well as our DPW and our water department, those essential departments. And so I'm very proud of our first responders for getting up and coming to work every day. We have several people who had been infected 2 weeks ago who are prepared to return to work, and I think that definitely helped a little bit because as people heard that people were positive, they just didn't know how this was going to go. But most of our first responders that have had mild to moderate symptoms, and they are on the mend and preparing to return to work. And so I think that helped to take away some of the fear of the unknown. But we know that this virus acts differently in each person according to their own medical history and their immune system, and so we don't take anything for granted.
841, our guest, Sean Patterson Howard, the mayor of Mount Vernon, talking about things Mount Vernon. Some of the things you mentioned earlier changed in some ways the course of this interview, and I need to go back to them. I was going to ask this question in general, but now it has more meaning. The budget. You mentioned earlier when we were talking about the issues with the comptroller that she says your budget, if I heard you right, is not legitimate. How then can we have a budget, A, B, and how is that budget likely to be impacted by the absolutely certain decrements in revenue?
Well, parking revenue is like non-existent right now. Sales tax revenue, if you really want to be honest, is almost non-existent
Of course.
throughout the county. Any aid that we might get from the state and county is going to be impacted. Taxes are going to be residential home ownership and business and commercial taxes are definitely going to be impacted or slow to come in, which can impact our cash flow. So these are very real things that I think are keeping all of us as elected leaders up at night. People feel the only thing that we have to be concerned about right now is coronavirus, and we are very concerned, but we're also very, very concerned about the rippling impact, the devastation to human life that we are feeling and seeing every day, but also the financial impact of our community. And it's not as if we can look to the state, the county, or the federal government because they're being impacted also.
Wow. So you're just going to have to tough it out. Now, is your budget legitimate or not?
Our budget is absolutely legitimate. It was voted on by the Board of Estimate. It was passed on to the City Council, who accepted it and adopted it, and it is legitimate. The comptroller, because she is upset about a line that for temporary help that was removed from the budget, she has, in her mind, said that the budget is not a legitimate budget. But she has an empty position downstairs that is more than sufficient financially to fund the temporary help line that was removed from the budget.
I see. Now, since the other things you mentioned, I can go back to another issue I had put on hold in my little list of Mount Vernon issues. The comptroller was also perhaps to be under investigation for her own hiring practices and some nepotism or whatever may have involved there. Will that be a part of the review that the comptroller does? Or is that a separate criminal investigation?
Well, I know the comptroller has that information. This was an investigation, I guess, that was launched by the Board of Ethics. I'm not sure when, because I wasn't involved. I, like the public, got the report at the same time that the public received it. And, for a person who says that she is here to protect the taxpayer money, she hires based on her own whims and has gone around every civil service rule that there is to hire her own people. We know we want to hire people who are going to be loyal to you, but you also want to make sure that you're hiring people who are qualified and who know how to do the work and who will do the work. I don't surround myself with yes people. Yes people get you in trouble. Yes, people will allow you to go to jail.
Oh, yeah.
I surround myself with people who are competent to do their work and who will push back. And so it's really sad because there are some talented people in her office who have been around for a while, and they almost look like deers caught in headlights because they have to blindly obey. her commands, and it's just as simple as that. And they know that a lot of what they're doing is outside of the scope, the realm of anything they've ever done under a controller before, and that they are not best practices. But when you're afraid to lose your job,
Oh, of course.
you do strange things. But we have told them, look, if she goes down, you might be going down with her, because you know to do right and you choose not to.
Well, that's always a sticky wicket. You know, the old Eichmann defense of, well, I was doing what my boss asked. That is a sticky wicket, Sean Patterson Howard. We don't want to let you go without giving you some free form time to talk with your city. You know, I have my little list of questions, but what would you like to tell your city, and what would you like to report? We've got some time.
I mean, I want to tell Mount Vernon residents the same thing that I would tell residents of other communities right now. We're living in a time of unprecedented public health challenges. Many people are afraid, they're anxious, they're terrified. There are more questions than there are answers. And what we have to do during this time, like no other time, is really to come together with our families, with our neighbors. We have to lean on our faith. We cannot fight and argue with each other right now because we're afraid and we don't have all of the information. I think we have a lot of information, and sometimes so much information that our minds become consumed with getting even more information, and we get to a point where it's unhealthy. Push back from the TV, unplug it a little bit. You cannot watch the governor and MSNBC and Fox and CNN and all the different news channels all day and just ingest constant coronavirus information. That is not healthy for your mental, your emotional, or your spiritual.
Tell it to a news
well-being.
guy. You are absolutely right. I read the funny papers now to get relaxation.
Yes, you just, and I said to a few people, I will be taking a few hours later on today to unplug because I'm on the phone 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night dealing with coronavirus. And, this level of involvement is not sustainable. It really isn't. So we do have to take out a moment. And then I would encourage people to please enjoy the time that you have at home with your family. They are healthy and they are safe. So if you're home and you're in a household with a healthy and a safe family, rejoice in that, because there are many people right now who are home alone and who are quarantined and suffering in their own silence, or they're in the hospitals where friends and family cannot visit them, or they're in nursing homes. And you have families who are grieving, who have lost loved ones.
Yep.
We received a number yesterday of about 19 deaths in the county. I can tell you we've had that many in Mount Vernon.
Right.
And so the information is lagging insofar as reporting that we're receiving,
of course.
Official reporting. We have that number of people who have died from COVID in Mount Vernon. So I know that number is not accurate, but is the official number for now. But you tend to get more information kind of on the ground as families give calls to the office to let us know what's happening or happened to their loved ones. But I had people put up posts on social media saying, why isn't Mount Vernon giving every one of us a mask and gloves? We are trying to make sure that we have masks and gloves for our first responders and keeping them safe.
Of course.
And people can go to the store and buy masks. They can go to the store and buy gloves, just like we have to find them and continue to get them for our first responders. But stay home. Stay home is my message. Stay home unless you are out as an essential worker, unless you have to go to the supermarket and grab a few more things to go back to quarantine. Stay home. Stay home.
Mayor, I want to thank you for your time. And listen, you stay safe as well. The city needs you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bob.
Take care. Mayor Sean Patterson Howard, Mount Vernon. Coming up, we're going to have a little chit-chat with another Yonkers reporter. We're going to move him to another day after today, so he doesn't have to repeat any as we move Hezi on into his day as well. But he will be with us regularly as well. His name is Delphin Huesler, and he is the managing editor of the Yonkers Insider. He's been a reporter in Yonkers for many, many years. He also has a Facebook page through which he publishes news information. We will get to him in one moment. First, another look at the weather. It is 7:50. Did I say 7:50? 8:50. Don't check your watch. That's me. My poor eyesight. All righty. The weather's brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org, and it's beginning to warm up. The things are drying. I think we're not going to have any rain the rest of the day, and that is a good thing. It is Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. It's 44 on the way. We're going to get up to maybe 50 today. Mostly cloudy, though. Cloudy tonight as well, but getting down to 35. Good sleeping weather. I always say cold weather's good for sleeping, so long as you have a good blanket. Wednesday, partly sunny, 53. No rain tomorrow. It'll be a nice break. Thursday, sunshine, but followed by increasing clouds. High of 54. And on it's a Friday, mostly cloudy. 56 degrees. And as we continue with our bottom of the hour, we're supported by our friends at the Beachmont Tavern, Plug-in Virtual Reality, law firm of Payne & Kahn, and Aging Issues Management. And so we move to our next guest. We've already introduced him. Please welcome Del Husler. Good morning, Delpham. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. How are you doing on this fine morning?
Well, doing okay considering. Let me see. Now, I've actually seen more people going to take the bus, about 5 or 4, than I've seen people go to the train. I've only counted 3. It's very, very quiet here at the New Rochelle train station.
Yeah, no, it is. It is even in Yonkers as well. It's almost like a ghost town. You know, it's really this coronavirus has taken our whole area by storm.
Well, you know, we just finished talking with the mayor of Mount Vernon, and she was telling us she's kind of disappointed with some of the behavior of her residents, and that if it were up to her, she'd even tighten the curfew. You know, she says some people are still hanging out on the street corners or playing and things like that. I'm sure it happens in the bigger cities, and they just, Mount Vernon, it's pretty easy to spot. It's 4 square miles. What's going on? What have you been reporting on lately? I see a lot of stories coming out of you. What's your hottest topic, or is it the virus?
Basically, just looking at in terms of news, in terms of how Yonkers is dealing with the coronavirus and stuff, and try and get as much information out there because it's always important to get information to the public so they at least know what's going on. And I know my colleague Hezi Alice had written an article on his site the other day criticizing the city of Yonkers for their response so far in terms of not reporting back to the people.
Yeah, they were staying on the down low, particularly with the schools, etc.
Yes, the schools are now closed until April 15th, at least at this moment. But there's always been stuff with in terms of the schools, in terms of it's always very hard in Yonkers because you always try as a media person to try and reach out to different people. I've always tried to reach out to the superintendent, but for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to want to do an interview sometimes. And then like we'll say, Bob, you always got to call people out when you're calling them.
I do it all the time. Well, school superintendents during this crisis are a special breed because they have reasons for doing things that they don't want to share. A, because of their unions. B, because of their agenda.
Oh, that's also true too. Yeah. Yes, because there was an issue a while back at the beginning of this with the Yonkers CSCA Local 9169. Yes, no, that's true. It is kind of tough to try and do interviews at times, especially the kind of interviews I like to do, which is the Facebook Lives. It's very, very tough because you want to stay within the social distancing and stuff like that. So it's kind of tough. It comes back to the old days where I start to go back to do my writing more or less. When I do the interviews, I do writing now because it's safer. It's important to stay safe during these tough times.
Well, and the good thing too is when you're writing, your opinion is out there. You get to think through the right words. And one of the risks of doing 4 hours of radio every day is that we all have issues with articulation, even if we do it all the time. And sometimes we don't say exactly what we mean. Or at other times we get in trouble for saying precisely what we mean. So,
that's true. Yeah. That's true also. Yes, no, I absolutely agree. Yes,
but and it's something that it's a risk of the business. like sometimes you'll generalize and then you have to defend the fact. I think I said something
Mm-hmm.
today about a lot of people on the right or a lot of people on the left. And then someone will call you, what do you mean by a lot of people? How many? And then, they're right. I should be a little more specific.
That's also true. Sometimes even myself say something, and then they keep saying, "Well, how many's on the right? How many's on the left?
Yeah, I know.
What do you really mean by that?" And it turns into something bigger than it actually really is.
Do you prefer writing?
Yes, I do. Actually, a lot of levels, I do prefer the writing because that's how I started. When I started doing this, I started doing the writing. But now, because of what happened in terms of videos and Facebook Lives have been so popular, I've gotten away from writing. But that is my number one love, doing the writing and
I understand
and being
that.
able to express myself to the citizens of Yonkers and Westchester.
I understand that completely. I always wanted to do radio all my life, so the last 20 years has been a dream come true, but I also wanted to write more. And I go back and forth. I love writing, but I don't. But the issue with writing is it takes more time.
That's also true.
You get to take deeper dives, but also you don't get to talk to, at the same rate, all the interesting people. I mean, it's so much fun to jump from issue to issue, assuming I prepared, of course. But you know how it is. 1 minute I'm talking to the mayor of Mount Vernon, and the next minute I'm talking to a guy about what's going on and some interesting things going on in Israel. I'll be talking about tomorrow. All that.
It can go from issue to issue, person to person, different places. No, it definitely is true.
Do you blog every day?
Yes, I do. I try and do. I think probably somewhere between 8 and 12 hours a day. Always try and find different community events, try and put them up, and always trying to inform the residents of Yonkers and Westchester County as to what's going on, and just to make sure that everybody knows that they have a site that they can go to, Yonkers Insider newspaper, to be able to see the news, and also not just the news, but community events and local events, because it's always important to have the community at large and everything all put together as one.
Now, is there anything right now that's particularly worrying you or that you're prepared to write about that you want to share?
Nothing really too much. More or less now what I'm doing now is I'm concentrating on trying to get some interviews in terms of writing. I'm going to be doing writing because with the interviews now, I think it's better to do telephone interviews at this moment and writing, which I love. I love my number one love with all this is to do my writing. Unfortunately, what has happened in the recent past was that like I said, the videos have become the rule of the day, more or less. So sometimes you got to settle in with the times.
No, believe me, I know.
But if I have my heart into it, my number one thing is my writing, because I love to write.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing more of it in the years ahead, so long as I remain on the planet. Thank you very much, Del. We'll talk to you.
You're welcome. Talk to you next week. Thank you for always having me on, Bob. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
And have a pleasant day.
Okay, and go to his website. We have to go next to one of our favorite people. He's usually here. He's on with us at 8 o'clock most days, but we moved him to 9 as we do the shuffle with everything going on. But I must hear from my buddy, and his whole family listens to the show. He's our sports guru, production, creativity, you name it, he does it. Please welcome Jake Schaefer. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Bob.
Welcome. Go ahead.
How was New Rochelle this morning?
Quiet as could be. I've actually seen more people walk down from, if you will, Division Street to go take the bus. A total of about 4. 3 went. Now, something I haven't announced yet, but I'm going to announce it now. I wanted to be sure I was right. There's that line, apropos of nothing. I'm not trying to make an issue, but it is what it is. Most of the people who are still going to the train are minorities.
Okay.
And I don't know what to make of that, but you're not seeing your usual Wall Street guy or gal, or white man. You're seeing mostly people of color. And I don't know if it's because of the nature of the jobs or they have to work to keep it, but I would not be, and I don't know, it's apropos of nothing right now, but it is, I don't know what it means, and I'm just throwing it out there.
I took the train on Saturday, and
Yeah.
I just thought this is the safest place in the world to be. I literally was the only human being besides the people that work there on the train.
Well,
I had no one bothered me. They didn't take a ticket. They didn't get near me. I was so I can't think of a safer way to travel.
Well, let me just say this about you, though the other people weren't safe with you on the train. Hey, we heard today early on. There's a big brouhaha out of Sports Illustrated. I thought you'd find it interesting. They did a story that, and their point of view was that Jacob deGrom and I guess Chris Sale on Boston, they should
about the elective surgery.
And I thought about it, and then I said, I'm going to put a stake in the ground. And you know what? When it comes to someone's livelihood, now, again, you have to triage. If you're taking a bed from somebody who really was to save their lives, of course not. But if it would not have mattered, just for optics' sake and baloney, whether or not a man or woman makes $15 million or $15 an hour, when it comes to a person's livelihood, that is important. And that was my take. But that's my take. What's your take?
My take is the teams should just shut up. Do not announce it. Let them go get their surgeries, but do not make any stupid announcements about it just to give people, give them something to be pissed about. That's my idea. Let them do the surgery. Just shut up about it. No one needs to know. I could care less.
No, but that's, you're saying you could care less, but from the standpoint of morality, do you think it's okay that they did it? Because that's the issue in Sports Illustrated. They don't think it is. I think it's okay.
I think it's all right.
Yeah,
It's not a huge. It's not a time consuming thing. I would just, I think it's fine.
Okay. Now I got more for you.
Teams.
Go ahead.
I got some stuff for you.
Go ahead. Well, let me give you. I have one more issue for you though. The other issue is the NCAA is giving people another year of eligibility. Now, say I'm a senior, and I'm going off. I'm graduating. Does that mean I still get to play another year even though I graduated?
Yes.
Wow.
Definitely.
So that in effect, you're almost a pro then. Good grief. Maybe they should get paid. All right. What's on your mind?
What do you think? Have you heard about the Tiger Woods versus Phil Mickelson?
Yeah,
possible?
I think it'd be good for the sport.
Now, what rankles me a bit is they might do it on pay-per-view. I think that's kind of...
Oh, for God's sakes. With all their money? I mean, certainly some network would pay them something reasonable. It may not be pay-per-view. But they should do it, or maybe they should do it and donate the money to people who don't have jobs. Neither of them is ever going to have to work again.
Yeah, I agree. And I was surprised to hear that they were thinking about doing it on pay-per-view. I mean, they would make a killing, of course.
You know what,
any sporting event would make a killing, but I don't know if I would. I think I would find a way to watch it illegally if they did it on pay-per-view.
Of course.
I wouldn't cough up the bucks.
I'm going to make an analogy. You know what it's like, divorce lawyers. Couples around this planet have deals cut, and they're happy with it until they talk to a divorce lawyer. The next thing you know, the guy funded the kids, the girl stole the money, or vice versa, and then they go on and on and on, and they trump up everything because they want to get paid. And so what I sense here is their managers and the networks are trying to make it into a moneymaker. That's my take. It's the divorce lawyer dynamic. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would be interested in watching it. They did it before, and it was kind of slow because, watching golf, you cut to all the different players.
Yeah.
He's got a shot coming. But when it's just two players, it's kind of slow. You're watching a lot of walking, and But heck, I'm so bored.
Yeah, but you need great analysts if you're going to do that, and who can talk about sidebars. Like what I might do if I were producing that is I would, and Tiger wouldn't like it, but I would do like Tiger's history and Mickelson's history. And you can intersperse that. I mean, Tiger was golfing since he came out of the womb. His wife was golfing with his head when he got
caught. That is true.
Did I ever tell you one of the funniest headlines that I've ever seen? This is when I know this is a sidebar, but when Tiger, when it was found out that he'd slept with, I don't know, 14 women or whatever it was, and they did a calendar, if you remember. Did you remember? Did you ever see the Tiger Woods calendar with all the women on it?
Of his harem?
Yeah. Anyway, so he got Athlete of the Year, so the New York Post did a headline. Tiger Woods wins Athlete of the Year. And he plays golf, too. I love that. That's a good, I mean, what else? What else is going on? What else are you going to bring to me? Talk to me, baby.
Are you getting excited for football?
You know what? A little bit, but you know what? Because again, I'm trying to watch a little bit of sports, I'm finally becoming a little bit interested in college football.
College football?
Yeah, but let me tell you what led me back to it. I was watching specials about Mahomes, and I was watching specials about Brady, and there was a wonderful program, a really good program about all of the Mannings. I didn't even know there was a third brother who got hurt playing football.
Yeah.
Okay. And the whole controversy of Eli going to Ole Miss, but his brother didn't, blah, blah, blah. And I said, college football is pretty good. It's pretty cool. I love AAA, everything else. Why am I not interested in college football? I think I could be interested in it again. I used to when I was a teenager, but I know you like college sports. Or is it college round ball?
I like college basketball is probably my favorite, but I do like college football. I'm very excited to see how Brady does this year. I think he went to the completely wrong team for him in this stage of his career. The Tampa offense is, the coach likes to throw the ball deep down the field, meaning Brady's going to have to, take his time a little bit, wait for the receivers to get down the field. And I don't think Brady has the down the field arm anymore. And B, that just sets him up to get crushed. And he's not a spring chicken anymore, but it'll be fascinating to see how they work on that offense. That coach he's known for being a big pass play guy throughout his career. So I don't know how Brady's going to survive.
Well, I saw, speaking of, no, let me go back to this. Then I want to go back to that thing I saw on the Mannings. A lot of people, even some other quarterbacks now, are finally, it's like you could never criticize Brady, in the NFL, but they're probably saying they think he did this more out of ego than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I think he wants to win one without Coach Belichick.
Really? Does he? But one of the cool things about their symbiotic relationship is I always thought that it was never one over the other. I thought that they both got their just due, but obviously he thinks he didn't.
It seems like that now, yeah.
Yeah. What the heck? It shows what I know.
Did you see that interview with the Cuomos last night?
Yeah, I caught the snip. It was pretty funny. It was in the kitchen. Mom had you in the kitchen. Their mother's a wonderful woman. I've interviewed all of the Cuomos. Of course, the dad was always a rich interview. God rest his soul, Mario. But one of the best interviews was Matilda. And her sauce, and her sauce is absolutely a thing of note. She was close friends with the great opera singer Pavarotti, and whenever he came to New York, he used to go to her house and make her cook for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's a wonderful woman. Matilda Cuomo is just a wonderful woman. And
so, do those two generally dislike each other, or was
that's that brother rivalry. My brother and I, it's like when you hear me with Vince, we abuse each other. Vince, I know since I'm 6 years old.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Geez, I just contacted my grandson. This is when he says, I got to get a new phone. He can't call me on his phone, and I wanted him to talk about games. All right, let's go back to the Cuomos and then a couple of other things. Yeah, it was fun. I like when family does that. And I would really love to see, and forget my trouble with the president. The president, like everybody else, is a human being, and I'm sure he has intimate and fun moments with his family. I would like to see more of that, right? Rather than the angry Spitfire all the time. I think it would be a nice side of him to show, but he just isn't wired that way, I guess. A couple of other sports stories that are out there. What do you think of Dolan getting the virus? That wasn't
great.
right.
I love it,
It
actually.
wasn't right? No. It's just, no. You can't.
No, he seems to be one of the world's genuine jerks. So, hey, if I'm going to make a list of people to get the coronavirus, heck, 2 of them already got it. Harvey Weinstein
Well, Harvey
and James
deserved
Dolan.
it. Yeah, Harvey deserved it, I guess. But, but this guy, I don't know. When you own a football team or a hockey team, you got a right to do what you want. He pays the bills. But I'm glad he paid those workers. I was a little upset about that. So.
Yeah. No, of course, I'm not happy about him getting the coronavirus, but he seems like a jerk anyway.
No,
I hope he survives.
Well,
hope he
I can
doesn't
tell
die.
you, this isn't going to help me get guests when the hockey podcast starts, but I'm going to work through the NHL. I'm not going to work through the Rangers. They are the most horrible. Now, I am a big Ranger fan, and I love the way he's left his hands off the Rangers, but the PR people that work for Madison Square Garden rot. They would not, I'm pretty easygoing, but I throw people under the bus when they deserve it. Kevin Shattenkirk was from New Rochelle. Okay. Do you know the Rangers wouldn't put him on his hometown radio station when I was on WVOX? The Rangers forbade
Really?
him yeah. And I said, look, and I didn't do it. I'm like, sometimes I get a little prissy in my old age. I said, look, his parents live a mile from here. I can go down and knock on the door, which is what I did when he got drafted. Well, not literally. I just called the house. I said, but I'm not going to do that. I said, I am not going to give the Rangers something they could use because you're so miserable. And other guys I know in the media, because I've been at this a long time, everybody hates working with MSG. They actually give you lists of questions to ask their people. They're just the worst.
Yeah, I've tried to do business with the G League team, and nothing.
Forget about it. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Even when I was doing pregame shows there, I could interview everybody but the players. It's ridiculous. But that's just the way they are. It's just how they're wired. And the good gets I got because I was doing something else. And I got very lucky I do some freelance work for another outlet. And I got to interview Phil Jackson when the Knicks weren't letting him do interviews. So I got lucky there too. So you never know. You never know. So how are things going? Has the wife threatened to kill you yet? Jake Schaefer, our guest, by the way, normally he'd be in the studio with us, but he is quarantined. Has she threatened to kill you yet?
Has my wife threatened to kill me today? She has not, but she would like to say hello real quick.
Oh, put her on
Here's
the phone.
Christina.
Hi, Christina. How are you? Christina Schaefer.
Hi,
She's as good as it gets. Oh, don't call me Robert. Them's his fighting words. How did you know that? Whoa. Look out now.
We're still alive over here, both of us.
Now, when do you start teaching the little kiddies?
I have been.
Oh, okay. How come I
It's
never
terrible.
I never had a teacher like you? My teachers.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
No, that's bad, but I wouldn't have learned anything. Hi, teach. I think I did something bad. I need to be disciplined. But then I'm sorry. But no, so you've already started. How long is your school day? Seriously,
We
teaching
have
online.
started. So we're not really confined to the school hours, but I've been doing either Google Meet or Zoom calls with some of the students, and then, we post assignments for my co-taught classes in Google Classroom. It's really hard because I work with students that are learning disabled, so
Yeah, I know.
They have a hard time. They can't learn on their own. They
That's
struggle with some things. So obviously that's the value of the instruction. But then at least, I can clarify any assignments if they have them, or if they forgot how to, do a math problem or something like that, we can conference in, and then, they can show me the work on the screen, that, what they're working on, and I can come in and, we can talk it through. So that's actually been really helpful.
Now, how close have you come to killing your husband? You can tell us here. Nobody's listening.
Very.
No, I thought. Well, then yeah.
But his cousin said, I said, will you visit me in jail if I kill Jake? And he said, no jury would convict you.
No, this is true. And plus, I'd help you break out. Hey, you know who of all people I heard from? Crash.
Really?
Our friend Crash. She wished me a happy birthday.
What?
And
we missed your birthday?
Yeah, it was last Wednesday. It wasn't something I was announcing about to the whole planet,
Wow.
It's a bad day, Black Rock.
Did she call in?
No, but on Facebook she wished me a happy birthday, and evidently she's getting used to being called Crash. Now I know her husband Matt is listening, a good friend of we've done a lot of radio together. And what's interesting is how insurance rates in New York have gone down since she's been quarantined. Car insurance rates. I mean, thank God. You know what I thought about? Thank God she's not like a building maintenance person. We have collapses. Now, she's your best bud, right? She's your best bud?
We're really tight, yeah. She's a really good egg and a really good teacher, and I know she's really struggling as well. What grades does she teach? And she doesn't teach automotive, right? I mean, she's not. She does not teach automotive, no. She
How to
teaches
wreck a car.
grade,
What, pardon?
and they adore her. So
yeah,
I can't
wait
even
a minute.
imagine what.
Hold
at
on,
least
folks.
We can communicate.
The COVID. Did
the
I
kids,
hear a sniffle? Did I hear a sniffle?
From me?
Yeah.
No, it's just allergies over here.
That's what you're saying as your husband becomes diseased because of you not taking care of yourself.
No, we're good.
Okay,
he really has really bad allergies. So
I know. He comes in here, he coughs and hacks. We have to have a zone for him where he stays over there in the corner.
I know, it's awful, right?
And then he sneezes
so you have the symptoms of COVID, and then you have the spring coming with allergy season ready to pop. It's going to be awful for Jake. We won't know what's going on.
Well, Liz, by the way, his mom was listening yesterday. So I really appreciate his family, because with his family listening, it doubles the listenership. Now, actually, we're doing pretty good. Our numbers are up during this because everybody's on Facebook and YouTube and all that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so go figure. You never know. So don't you have to go back to teaching children? I never had a teacher like you. Hello.
I
wish.
Mrs.
Mrs.
I had a Zoom
I did
call.
bad. You're supposed to yell at me. I'm sorry.
I had a call this morning with a student that I scheduled with him yesterday. He asked for 9 o'clock this morning, and then I go to my computer at 8:55, and it said, and he hasn't sent an email at 2:30 in the morning that said, "I'd like to reschedule because I'm afraid I'll oversleep."
I'd like to reschedule, but I wish I could have done that. Oh man.
I know. What do you mean? I got up to have this call with you, and cracks me up. So I'll have to fit him in later.
What are punishments these days? When I was in high school, do you know what they'd make us do if I got in trouble? I'd have to clean the rat cages in lab. Yep. I had this
really?
brother.
Did you go to a Catholic school?
Of course I did, yeah. Brother DeMarinis, he had this whistle in his voice. And he go, Mr. Marrone, if you don't complete the assignments in your earth science workbook, you will clean the rat cages tonight. And that got me to do my assignments. You don't want to clean them.
That's crazy.
Do you know I got in trouble in school once? Animal rights people will love this, even though I'm not a big animal rights person. When we had a pith, did you ever pith a frog? It's when you put the probe in the back of their necks to paralyze them.
I don't think so.
Oh, what kind of school did you go to? Did you have science lab, any of that? Anyway, so we had to pith them and put a probe in the back of their necks and paralyze them. But they were squealing, and the kids don't do that, right? The freshman, junior, I should not have done what I did. I opened up the frog cages and let them out.
Oh, my God.
They were flipping around in front of the lab. Ribbit. And I said, well, then do it right. My beef was let the teacher or a good scientist pith them. don't let us experiment in a way that hurts something. That's all. I just didn't want to hurt the little bugger, so I let him out.
Oh, you were that kid.
Yeah, well, in that one case, yeah. It wasn't funny, though, when I had a couple of Saturdays where I had to go and clean the rat cages.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Well, what are you going to do? Mr. Marrone, I still can remember. He was a great guy, great teacher. Really inspired my love of science, but because he made everything like he got orgasmic when he talked about the Great Divide and the mountains you head east from the West Coast, the Rockies, the Great Divide. I thought he was going to pass out. I mean, the only way I get that way is I'm having a cigarette afterwards. But he was like all excited. Anyway, I have to move on. Can you give me your husband back?
Yes, I will give him back to you. Glad you're doing
Thank
well.
you, Mrs. Schaefer. Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Soon, in the flesh.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
soon.
Oh, thank you so much. Mrs. Schaefer, did I do
Hello?
bad? Oh, I'm sorry. I went to all Catholic everything. I had nuns, and then I was in an all boys. I never had an attractive woman teacher. It just never happened. I used to dream.
You missed out.
I did miss out, and then plus they did away with corporal punishment, which is even worse because I think I did bad, Mrs. Schaefer. I need to be spanked, but that never happened either. So I don't.
Well, never too late. Never too late.
Never too late. Hey, listen.
I'll send her right down to the studio.
Oh, good.
With
yes.
a ruler for you.
Jake Schaefer again. Jake and Mrs. Schaefer. Mrs. Schaefer. That's cool that she's teaching from home. By the way, I don't know if you were listening to her, but she made the point that no jury would ever convict her if she plunges a knife into your heart. So.
Yeah, she tells me that nightly.
Yeah, I do believe that. So I had another sports story there somewhere in the stack, but I don't know.
Oh, I'm very excited to see. I've been looking forward to this. ESPN announced a few months ago that they're coming out with in the summertime, a 10-part Michael Jordan documentary. And, in this day and age, they rushed and they're releasing it, and not in the summer, but in a couple of weeks. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, well, actually, if you get a chance, search since you mentioned that, I knew what I forgot to say, and then your wife came on, and my mind went blank because it was a nicer person than you are. But anyway.
That's true.
The Manning documentary, which covered his son's incident, the evolution of first Peyton and then Eli. My God, they were good in college. I did not know that Peyton was so good in college. He had a rifle.
Yeah, he had a rifle. He was like a robot.
No, he had a rifle. And actually, so did Eli. But Eli, though, going to Ole Miss, that was like the second coming. And the father and the relationship. What exactly happened to the son? I know he was paralyzed for a while, but fortunately he healed. Do you know what happened to this? I tuned in just as he was talking about his college career never happening or getting older. He wanted to go to Ole Miss with his brother. I think he was the older brother, right? The first one.
Yeah, and I believe that he was as good of a prospect, if not better, than Peyton.
Wow.
But he did get injured, and it was never meant to be, I guess.
Well, and he seems very well adjusted. I don't think he envies his brothers. But the thing that came through, and it does, family, if you're lucky enough, and a lot of people aren't, I was not, to have a dad that's involved in your life, and I know you've had that, and a mom, and again, this is not to criticize those that don't. I am among them. But if you're fortunate enough to have a really good, loving nuclear family and a father that is supportive, but also he wasn't overbearing from what when his son said, "I don't want to go to Ole Miss."
He was not Tiger Woods' dad.
Yeah, he wasn't a stage mom, so to speak. And how wonderful is that? And you could tell how much they love their father. For me, that was a special part of it because I can't even relate to it, There was a very special part of that. But good comes of everything. It made me a good dad, not having one, believe it or not. And probably an even better granddad, who knows. But so I'm going to send you back to anonymity in that house where you rank second. I'm sorry to say, but don't we all? And we will talk again back to your 8 o'clock spot tomorrow. But this was good because we have more time. And Come up with some other goodies like that. I like that. And by the way, I thoroughly agree with you. They should not do a pay-per-view, and they should do something. Look, cover their expenses. I get it, but after expenses, they should send the money to some charity, if that's what they do. Then I'd pay. If I knew it was going to first responders, I'd do it. But I'm not going to pay for
Yeah,
something like
I think ultimately that is what will happen.
Let us see. Jake Schaefer, everyone, comedian, before, now radio guy. He's also a mystic when it comes to picking games. And I want to get back and kick the ass of that kid that's in college that had my number. All right, thanks a lot, brother. Take care.
All right, talk to you tomorrow. Be well.
All right, be well. Now, I have not heard from Professor Breslin today. I was going to get to him a few minutes later, but then he gets tied up. He gets busy. Maybe sent me an email that I didn't see or a text I didn't see. That's always possible. But I had other things that I wanted to do as well. Now, I am going to take a few minutes before the show is over and do something that I think you will find interesting with the last 20 minutes of the show. I've got a survival guide, but I also have an anatomy of an infection that I looked up about the coronavirus. It really is very interesting. And it might, knowing a little more about it may actually make you'll find it interesting, but it may ameliorate, it may mitigate some of the fear you have. Because there have always been viruses. The cold is out there, and you don't get it every year. Some of you never get a cold. The flu is out there. It's out there every year. Lots of viruses, most of them harmless. So we're going to do that in a minute. First, our last review of the weather. And the weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org. And it is 51 now, and it's just about where we're going to get today. It's it's 49. It's getting up to about 51, maybe a little more if we see some sun. He might poke his head in. But even if he doesn't, we're going to linger around 50, mostly cloudy, getting up to 35 today. Partly sunny tomorrow, 53, no rain. Thursday, sunshine, followed by increasing clouds, a high of 54. And Friday, mostly cloudy, but some sunshine, and we'll get up to 56. Okay, this is a monologue of sorts, but it's a monologue that I put together, and I need both glasses to get to it, so you have to forgive me. And I want to credit the people in the Week magazine for providing this to me. And it's called Anatomy of an Infection. Once the virus infects a human body, what happens? Well, a virus, as you know, is a parasite microbe so tiny, and I didn't know this until I read this, that hundreds of millions, imagine this, could fit on the head of a pin. That's ridiculous. Hundreds of millions. That's like the old adage, how many angels can fit on the head of a pin? Hundreds of millions. I can't get over it. Anyway, like this, you see the pen? That's even smaller. Hundreds of millions. You're really tiny. Anyway, I digress. It's a coiled strand of genetic material embedded in a protective coat of protein that invades healthy human cells and essentially hijacks them, using the cell's genetic machinery to duplicate itself. Because they're not living until they're in a cell, then they shed their and become living. It's like completing a circuit, if you will. And technically, it's called SARS-CoV-2. The one currently wreaking global havoc is called SARS-CoV-2, is a type of coronavirus, a family of viruses covered with knobby little spikes that are used to latch onto cell membranes. Their appearance suggests a crown, hence that's why they're called corona. Now, the one that caused Middle East, and there are other forms of coronavirus. You knew the MERS. How many of you knew this, that the MERS virus stood, and then for those who criticize naming viruses, MERS stands for Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, and it kills about a third of the people it infects. That's nasty. That's beyond, much worse than this one. SARS, again, the coronavirus, CV-2, is a novel virus. It's like a book. It means it's original. It's one and only, in that it has never before infected humans. It is thought to have jumped from bats, bats, to humans via an intermediate animal. They don't think it went straight from bats, but to an intermediate animal. And I don't know what this animal is, and you'll forgive me, perhaps a pangolin, in Wuhan, China. That's why no one had immunity. Again, immunity exists for any illness because lots of people have it. And the typical thing, the herd immunity is when 60% of the people have antibodies against it. Now, how does it infect you? It can soon carry millions of microbes. Those infected soon carry millions. Their saliva teems with them. When they cough, sneeze, talk, or even just breathe heavily, that's why I don't breathe heavily. Don't get romantic. Well, unless you've both been in the house for a long time. Anyway, I digress. When they cough, sneeze, talk, or even just breathe heavily, they emit droplets laden with germs. A sneeze can launch 40,000 droplets, and naturally millions of microbes with it. If the drops land on someone, the virus can infiltrate the eyes, mouth, or most often the nose, launching a potential infection. An infected person can also leave a trail of virus on doorknobs, touch screens, and other surfaces if others touch them and then they touch their faces. Now, scientists believe that the virus can linger on plastic or metal for up to 3 days, and on cardboard for 24 hours, though their vigor wanes over time. But cardboard, someone called in today talking about pizza boxes, 24 hours is a long time. Once the viral particles gain access, they travel back into the throat, down the nasal passages, and that's why a lot of people just have a throat virus, just have a throat or upper respiratory issue. This is the beginning of the disease, and the disease itself is called COVID-19. What happens then? Well, once the virus attaches itself to a healthy cell, it sets about its work, fusing its membrane with the cell membrane, releasing its core RNA strand, and cranking out copies. In effect, an infectious disease expert at Vanderbilt, one William Schaffner, has said, the intruders order the inflamed cell, don't do your usual job. Your job is now to multiply, and that is what they do. And the actual cell dies. The initial effects, which take on average of 5 or 6 days, they can take 2 days or up to 2 weeks, are typically a fever. These are the typical reactions, okay? Typically a fever, a dry cough, and fatigue. About 80% of cases are relatively mild, and the infection stays largely in the upper respiratory tract as the immune system makes antibodies and activates T cells. And they neutralize and clear the virus. Those are the T cells you read about when people have any type of infectious disease, going back to AIDS. If you have right now a pneumonia or something like that, T cells are going to go after it. They neutralize and clear the virus. The victim recovers in a couple of weeks. In other cases, the invader pushes on to the lower respiratory tract, and that's where serious problems can set in. The lungs are the major target, according to doctors. And one doctor, Martin Hirsch, is with Massachusetts General Hospital. Now, what happens to the lungs? At this point, the virus begins to attack cells lining the lungs. Inflammation, and inflaming the tiny sacs. These are the oxygen exchangers. They send oxygen to the blood that you need, and then they, in turn, take CO2 out of the blood, which you later exhale. That's carbon dioxide. Now, breaths become shorter. That's why you develop the shortness of breath, because you need more oxygen and get rid of your carbon dioxide. So you're going to pant a little bit. So breaths become shorter and more difficult as cells die. The lungs become clogged with fluid and debris and can develop a secondary infection, which is pneumonia. In the most severe cases, the patient needs the help of a mechanical ventilator to continue to breathe, and thus all the ventilators you're reading about. Some nonetheless die. Now, how the immune system reacts apparently is a key factor determining how bad a patient's condition gets. In the most critical cases, for reasons doctors do not entirely understand, the immune response goes haywire. And this is something you've heard about. And we're going to get into a little bit of more detail about this before. A little more, that's great English, right? Detail. Something called cytokine storm, a cytokine, and I hope I pronounced it right, Cytokine. And this is one, and I'll give you the details, the immune system overreacts. It's kind of like, for those of you who watch hockey, my sport, when a player who gets a little whack on the arm, instead of just whacking the guy back, he goes ape spit and starts swinging and yelling and screaming and hopping. And well, your immune system does that. Cytokines are chemicals released as an alarm signal when the body detects dead cell fragments, indicating that an attack is underway. And this is part of the whole internal flight or fight thing. This is the physical flight or fight thing. These chemicals rally the immune system and set off a battle to expel the invader. In a cytokine or kine, I guess it's cytokine, I'm going to go that way, cytokine storm, the immune response spins out of control and starts attacking even healthy cells as well as the damaged ones. And instead of shooting at a target with a gun, you're using a missile launcher, is how one doctor put it, a virologist at Columbia University. Inflammation spikes, and fluid and dying cells fill the lung sacs, essentially drowning the patient. Meanwhile, the condition can extend into the circulatory system and spiral into multiple organ failures. This is what happens in the fatal cases, or many of the fatal cases, estimated to be between 1 to 3% of infections. Now, understanding better why this happens to certain patients and how it can be treated or prevented is a key focus of scientists right now. And they say they think it's going to be a really long time to understand those mechanistics, biological, or the mechanistic biological basis of why some people get sicker than others. Now, lastly, and we're coming up on 9:36, why does the coronavirus cause only mild symptoms in some while overwhelming others? Some factors are clear, others scientists are still working to understand. The most obvious fact is age, with elderly patients accounting for the majority of fatalities and the roughly 5% of cases that become critical. The reason is that the immune system becomes considerably less effective as people grow older, but that doesn't mean younger people are safe. Data on early U.S. cases shows that 38% of patients needing hospitalization were under 55. Underlying conditions play a clear role, with fatality rates higher for patients of any age with hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, and other ailments. Smoking is thought to be a factor because it weakens the lungs, and gender may play a role. Now, why? They're not sure, but in a Chinese study of 45,000 confirmed cases, men had a fatality rate of 2.8% compared with women's 1.7%. Though external factors like higher smoking rates among men may account for this, other possibility factors may be related to the environment, such as air quality, or to genetics, such as subtle immune deficiencies. Nobody knows. And that's everything that you could possibly know about the virus for lay people without getting into cell biology. Now, that's how it works. This is the survival guide. Again, symptoms: dry cough, sore throat, fever, and shortness of breath. If you feel sick, call your healthcare provider. If you don't have a doctor, the city can help you. In New York City, the number is 844-692-4692, 844-692-4692. You can also call 311. And of course, here in the county, you can call 849-863-9314, 849-863-9314, or visit one of the urgent care locations in and around. 2, if you're a state-certified healthcare professional, the city and state need your help. Need your help to handle the expected rise of patients. You can go on all the different websites to do that. Loss of job. Now, New York State waived the 7-day waiting period to file for unemployment, so you can get right to it. Here's the unemployment number, 888-209-8124. It's bound to be crazy, so you can go to labor.newyork.gov/home. labor.newyork.gov/home. Parking. The city and most of Westchester have suspended alternate side parking for a week, but that's so far. We don't know. Education. Well, you already know that. Schools are closed. Now, if you're feeling stressed, we have 3 numbers for you. We're going to start again here, the same number. If you're feeling stressed, you want to talk to somebody. Here in the county, 849-863-9314. If you're in the Bronx, although I'm sure they'll talk to you anyway there, 888, or elsewhere in New York City, 888-692-9355, 888-692-9355. Now, something, they were on with us last week, and we got to give Optimum Health. Other insurance companies may do it, but they offered to come on the show and give us their number. 866-342-6892. Optum has certified licensed counselors. 866-342-6892. 892. One more time, 866-342-6892. Con Edison has suspended service shutoffs for people having payment issues. If you're experiencing outages, do call them at 800-752-6633. Consumer complaints, we already know how to do that. Anyway, the whole point of this last little bit, knowledge, folks, alleviates fear once you just look it straight in the eye. The bottom line is 80% of us are going to be fine. The other 20%, some people are going to get sick, and a very small percentage of them are not going to make it. A larger percentage still above that, though, are going to get very sick but recover. And it's a numbers game. Their numbers are going to go up and then plateau. And once they plateau and we get a hold on it, then you'll begin to see things open up again. So continue to social distance. Remember to wash your hands. And also, and that's why we did some of the sports stuff today, and I pick on the guests and have a few more yucks. You know, we all have hobbies. I mean, I just dying, although I'm actually still working, dying to prune my book collection, which is a major part of my life. 3,500 books is too many. I keep buying books all the, you know how it is. I got to get rid of some. But there's so much you can do, from making fancy dinners for your family, even as you keep distance, to board games. I just tried to get my grandson on, and his phone broke because he's an expert on family games. But we'll get him on later in the week, and we'll see what we're going to do. Also, we also have to talk to our sponsors and our people here. We, as a radio station, are suffering like everyone else is, and have to figure out how we're going to make our way over these next several weeks. But for all of us here and to you, and I hate to be preachy, but these things always pass, folks. You know, it's kind of like I have this little thing in my head where I say, well, we're entering the event phase. It's if you go to a black hole to see what was in there, you first have to get up, and then the gravity pulls you in, and then you peek, and then you look at it and you come back. Well, this will end. And where I agree with the president, and again, he doesn't say it as well as I do, okay? It's not how he's wired. But one of the things that he has always said is, this is a great country, and it really is. But the thing that makes this country great is its entrepreneurial spirit, its willingness to deal with hard times and deal with it. And you see the best of people most. You see the worst in some, but the best in most. And there are people all over this country already figuring out how to make money, how to get through this, how to bounce back, and maybe getting a chance to enjoy more time with their families. And on a slightly salacious but also warm-hearted note, you know, we had boomers, war babies, boomers, blackout babies, 9/11 babies. I'm wondering how many coronavirus babies there will be, and we'll be able to tell about 8 months from now or so. My guess is we're going to see a spike in the population, and that'll be nice to know that couples and lovers have had a chance to spend more time than they ordinarily would. We're going to leave a little early today. We have a lot of work to do to keep this this wonderful experiment in digital radio going. So I'm going to take a break, but I want to thank a number of people before we get rolling. The guests were great today. Vince, didn't always agree with him. Of course, Vince Russo, Mike Edelman, Mike Duffy, Hezzy Arish, Sean Patterson, Howard, Del Husler, and of course our own Jake and Mrs. Schaefer. It was great to have them on, and their families are real supporters of the radio station. I want to say thank you to them, Jake's family, his wife's family. They're very, very supportive of us, and it is really appreciated. We also need to thank our sponsors. Hopefully they still will be in the morning. We'll start with our newest and perhaps our most fleeting, our friends over at the Beachmont Tavern, but we're going to continue to support them and get them back on their feet. The Beachmont Tavern, I got to have one of those burgers. I think I'm going to do them tonight. Dominic's Fine Cigars, the law firm of Payne & Con, Aging Issues Management, and their partners, Aging Issues Radio, and of course, United Hebrew, our first. United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.org. And he doesn't listen because I had to send him new radios, but shout out if you're a friend of a good friend of mine, Ron, who's in a nursing home. He's got a fever. We're hoping, want him to know Godspeed. We'll give you a call later if your radios are working. You stay strong, my friend. Also, how could I forget to thank my secret lover, Lorraine Carl. Thank you for your call early this morning. It was appreciated very much. And for the rest of you, even as we leave a little early, we'll see you tomorrow.